The great painter has something to say. He does not paint men, landscapes, or furniture, but an idea.
Animation is cinema. Animation is not a genre. And animation is ready to be taken to the next step. We are all ready for it.
And the only way that you can exercise the mind is by bringing new ideas to it. So it'll be surprise.
Hello and welcome to Makin Toons, the series where we discuss and learn all about animation and the animation business. I'm Cunningham, and I'm joined by living legend and animated filmmaker Allan Neuwirth. Allan, how are you today?
Don't give me that living legend shit.
But it's not untrue.
I'm living, but I'm a legend in my own mind, and maybe when my mother was alive, I was a legend to her.
You have done more things, much like many in the animation world. You go often uncelebrated and unnamed beyond, voiceover actors, which we'll get into, are always now front and center, much in the cast. But
that's true.
It's very hard for a junior high student to know who directed an animated film or who animated something. You know, it's not very common, but they'll know, Kristen Chenoweth and Kristen Wiig and Chris Pratt did the voices in XYZ.
Because that's what sells the film for the studios. You know,
that's not the animation itself. No, God forbid.
I mean, if something is poorly animated, it's not going to help the film. But if it's gorgeously animated, I mean, again, we've talked about Flow. Flow had no voices at all in it. The one that won the Oscar last year, and it's a gorgeous film, and it never stops moving. And it's just, I loved it. I mean, obviously, I'm not the only one. It won an Oscar, but the only thing selling that was the film itself. You know, so it's a pet peeve of mine. The whole thing about celebrities being the be all and end all to drive a project, and I'm guilty of casting very famous people in a lot of my work too. But it's fun. It's fun to work with these people. And if you cast the right names, you're going to get an amazing performance.
Well, I mean, we're looking at, it's really a story between Flow, what you just said. It's a story of two different approaches, right? Two different originations. If we are going to look at an example, I think we have three different levels of examples here. We have Flow, which Gintz did basically by himself for the most part, good additional help.
Up to a certain point. Then he had a huge crew helping him finish.
Correct. Once people saw what was going on, independently made to start. And then just in our last episode, we had Signa, and Signa is doing her own work, but there are like celebrity voices in that, Patrick Wilson being one of them.
Yes.
But it's independently produced. There's grants, there's fundraising involved. She's on track to finish it in 2 years, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are DreamWorks and Disney movies, which are just these the system is mechanical in a way where they just know we need a name to sell it, when even though I don't believe they really do, truthfully. If you were going, here's my thing with this.
Let's hear your theory. Yeah.
My theory is the Thor theory. All right. So when Thor, the movie, live action Marvel movie, came out, they cast Chris Hemsworth. No one had any idea who that guy was.
True.
Like, primarily. In Australia, sure. Here, no, he just looked the part. And you could say, oh, well, Natalie Portman was in it. Nah, not really. Like people, I love Natalie Portman, but that wasn't it wasn't called Jane the movie. It was called Thor. So I believe that if an audience is really interested in something, when they see something cool, they'll go see it. I'm not watching Chris Pratt be Mario. I'm listening to his voice in Mario, and it's a modified voice a little bit too. So I do feel like the golden age of Disney. How many Disney princesses were celebrities?
Very few until a certain point.
Yep.
Yeah. But we were talking about this, you and I, before. Disney's films and Fleischer too, for that. I mean, everybody until a certain point. You had solid professional voice people who mostly came from radio, at that back then, and they knew how to deliver a vocal performance without the use of their physical bodies.
Yeah,
an actor An actor can get into the frame of mind of their character when they're wearing the costume, they've got the makeup, they're in a set. All of that helps them envision and imagine who the character is. In animation, you've got actors going into, well, now they're in home studios very often,
Sometimes.
but they're in a small insulated closet, or they're in the studio. I like working in the studio, and they're behind glass. They can't even hear what we're saying unless we push a button, to convey what we want to convey to them. When you're directing actors, I know we're sliding around subject-wise here, but when you're directing the actors in the booth, you have to help them imagine what's going on. So you have to help them. You have to help them set the picture in their mind. You show them visuals with animation. You can show them lots of character design if you have it. You should have it, and then they have to take it from there.
Are they always, in your experience, performing to a voice they can hear, or are they just reading lines, imagining the voice in their head that they're acting?
I mean, they have the cans on. They can hear what they're doing. Is that what you're asking? Or
I'm asking if, let's say, for example, I am Mickey Mouse and I'm recording my voice to be Mickey Mouse.
I think of you sometimes as Mickey Mouse, actually.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
In a nice way.
Sorcerer Mickey is a personal hero of mine. I appreciate the ability to wield great power and fuck it up, essentially.
But then things get set right again at the end.
Jensen shows up and he's like, "I got you, buddy," but too soon. Look at the mess. I told you not yet. But I'm wondering if, in your experience, when voiceover actors are saying their lines, are they hearing the lines from the other characters?
Oh, I mean, that's a huge, you're bringing up a really important point. Acting is reacting.
Yep.
You are always playing off your scene partner or partners in live action. Almost always, except when someone gets a shot over the shoulder. Look, actors have had to do reaction shots, have had to perform monologues as if they're actually speaking to their scene partner. But in animation, in the old days, they would often try to get people together, some people together in the booth at least, so they could do the interplay. And I've done that. It's rare. It's a privilege when you can have several of the performers together at the same time. Everyone's schedules are different now.
Yeah.
So to get 2 people or 3 people in there together, where you start to get spontaneity of performance, is just wonderful, but it doesn't happen very often. So no, the answer to your question is they have to imagine what the other actors are saying to them, and they have to react in with emotional honesty in an emotionally true fashion. It's not easy.
So no one is feeding them lines or anything?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm about to do a job in a couple of weeks where I'm going to have a young performer, and I'm going to have to feed her lines. I'm sure I am. I might have to go into the booth with her, and we'll just cut my voice out so that she has someone to play off of. But when you have an experienced voice performer, they know how to do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are just wonderful, who most people wouldn't know what their names are.
Last year Tongal did a scripted horror podcast, and all of those actors were recorded separately. So in the booth, so to speak, we did use an actual booth, like a very large one. Local sound mixer had converted a barn. It did a very nice job. Good job, Jared Mann. Shout out Jared Mann for creating a great space in Rhode Island.
Bravo.
But they sometimes would be fed lines if they wanted that we would read with them, but primarily it was them just saying the lines. So.
Yeah. I mean, depending on your budget, of course, TV budgets are less forgiving. You really have to try and get it the first time, because you can always do ADR, and you can always, when you're doing feature films, the budget is usually more generous and you can bring people back. So if there's something's doesn't quite feel right in a scene with 2 people, 3, however many, you can do it again, but if you have the right actor, you don't have to do it again, because they're giving you what you need emotionally and texture wise. And by the way, the very first time I'm trying to think, the very first time I worked with a consummate voice professional, I think was Jane Foray, who was the queen of voiceovers. And I'm sure everybody watching this knows who she was. But if they don't, Rocky, Rocky, and she was Natasha. She was Rocky the Flying Squirrel. She was also one of, was Rocky a boy? I guess he was a boy.
Suppose so.
So can't believe I'm actually thinking about that. One of Rocky's nemesis, Rocky and Bullwinkle's nemesis, was Natasha Fatale.
Oh, yes.
Fatale.
Policeman Squirrel.
Yeah, and Boris Badenov, of course. And there's an example, by the way, of really limited animation where the voices and the writing had to completely carry the show. But the first time I worked with a consummate professional was June on a pilot of a show that I had written and designed. And I can show you some of the design. You can throw some of the designs up here if you want to see some of that. I hired her to play a character named Mrs. Ratso. She was a desiccated, shriveled old rat in a wheelchair being pushed around by her nurse, who was played by Kira Sedgwick. And wow. June was the first time that I'd ever seen anyone do this. And since I've seen it many times, she would give you three reads, one after the other, each one different. So you had choices automatically. I mean, she was so used to doing all the voices for the Warner Brothers cartoons, and she did a lot of Disney work too. They give you choices, and that's like so valuable.
Well, that brings up a very interesting point. I'm so curious about what's the casting process like for voiceover actors in your experience?
Boy, I mean, well, there are casting directors who handle mostly voice. In fact, there are many casting directors who are specifically devoted to voice performances. So you work with a good casting director or a good talent agency. And, since you asked about my own experience, since I'm a writer, and also I produced and directed a lot, but I think as a writer, so I've written the character very often, and I know in my head how I pictured the voice sounding. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to end up on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
But we can talk about that if you like. But sometimes when you're writing, you're hearing a certain voice in your head too, or you think to yourself, oh my God, the perfect voice for this would be so-and-so. And you could try to get them. You might not, or you might. I mean, I've been very surprised on occasion. I think I told you, for years, I wanted to get Mel Brooks to do a voice for me for something. Yep. And he kept turning me down because he was too busy writing some silly little musical called The Producers, or doing television work, or whatever he was up to.
Is he being Mel?
He was being Mel. And he's still being Mel at 99 years old, soon to be 100. Awesome. And I almost had him a couple times. Almost had him for a couple of series, one for Amazon, a couple other things. Didn't quite work out. And then finally, I did get him, and I wrote it with his voice in mind. So that's a dream come true.
And what project was that, Allan?
That was we've talked about it before. That was Flower of the Dawn. That was ironically an independent production, independently financed. The others were all studio or network or streamer funded, but they were more stingy with the money.
Are voiceover actors more affordable, if they're names, than live action? So, for example, you had some. They are.
Generally, they are, because it's quick work. They don't have to get into costume. They don't have to travel to set. They don't have to get up at 5 a.m. and be in makeup. They don't have to do any of that. So there's a lot of actors who love doing voice work. It lets them be creative and expressive and funny, and do it down and dirty. Do it quick. Make quick money. There are actors who just go from one job to the next, to the next, to the next, and they make a very good living, by the way.
Oh, yes. I can tell you for a fact there are, as I'm sure many folks, fans of animation are listening, there is a dedicated fan base to specifically voiceover actors. Yeah. There's a lot of this anime, for example, uses a pool of roughly the same 40 to 60 actors, and you start to recognize their voices, whether or not you know their names. And some of them go on 20, 30 years in their career. And then I'm curious, though,
I've worked with some of those, by the way.
Who have you worked with?
I've worked with Johnny Jan Bosch.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Power Ranger. I worked with him on Space Racers for 2 years. Yuri Lowenthal who also was on that show with me. Griffin Puatu, who's done tons of that. He was on Flower of the Dawn. I can't remember everybody, but there are folks, that's their bread and butter, anime now. What were you going to say? I cut you off.
I mean, I was technically, I did a voiceover
Did you?
video game once.
What?
It was the Warriors video game. It was an adaptation. It wasn't even something I went out for or anything. I was just, someone had canceled and they needed someone, and my voice at the time sounded fine. So I read a few lines and made a little bit of money. And
did you have fun?
I did have fun. It was nice.
You know what? I've done a lot of voices over the years, and I have to admit, I've cast myself.
Well, we had it's funny, we yesterday in our internal conversations at Tongal, one of the commercials we did for a cleaning product, a national spot, was shared internally because we needed to find a voice that worked for it. And as I understand it, the client, the brand really liked the producer's voice that he heard, so it's his voice in the voiceover, which is
that happens. Yeah, that happens on feature films. That there are some famous cases. Brad Bird, who was that character in The Incredibles?
Edna Mode.
Edna Mode.
I love Edna Mode.
I don't know for sure if he was intending to do it from the get-go, but he certainly did it for the scratch track. And there are. And of course, they kept it. He was the best Edna. I don't know that anybody could have done it better than him. And people love to do voices in their own work now.
Have you had an experience working with an actor where you've hired them for their voice, and you may have been expecting them to use their actual voice, but they throw out something that's not their actual voice, and you kept it?
No doubt. I'd be hard pressed to remember who did that. I mean, there are okay. Because more recent things come to mind sooner. The British actor Matt Lucas.
Oh yeah, of course.
From Little Britain fame, who was one of the nicest people I'd ever worked with, and also very. I mean, if anyone has seen him on stage or in film, he is just hilarious. He's really. Yeah, we brought him in to do a voice of an owl, and he has at his disposal accents, dialects, regional. He could change his voice. I mean, and if you've seen Little Britain, he does a lot of different things on there too. So yes, I was very pleasantly surprised. He did a brilliant Scottish accent, and he had us laughing out loud, but then there's people. I probably can think of some other examples you love to be surprised when you're doing this. Because especially if you hear something in your head and somebody gives you so much more than you ever expected you were going to get, it's the best kind of collaboration. In fact, that's what's so great about collaboration.
Oh, absolutely. The back and forth, the creative negotiation you do, even with the best intentions when you don't know you're doing it.
And people giving you the unexpected. Giving you the best of their talent, but often bringing unexpected quirks of their brain that everybody thinks differently.
I'm so curious because you had Jane Lynch in Flower of the Dawn.
Oh, a dream.
Yeah, and Jane has an extremely identifiable voice. Was that intentional, or did you want her?
She can change her voice. I've heard her do other shows where I was surprised to see that it was her. Jane loves doing voice work. I read someplace that her one of her original goals in life was to do voices for animation, and she's very prepared. She prepares in advance. Some people wing it. She's very professional. She was delightful to work with. But I was going to say, and then you cast people like take Mel again. I knew what I was going to get. Did he surprise us? With some line deliveries? Yes, of course he did. But Mel basically directs himself. You're sort of there to help guide him along if he'll let you. Well, he's been doing this for so long.
Is there, then that brings to mind my question of, is there a difference between like a technically perfect read and something that you keep?
Oh my God. We don't care about technical perfection when we're doing this. We want something brilliant, something that surprises us, something that brings the character to life. You can always clean things up technically or do it again. you know.
In your experience, is the animation done or the animatics done ahead of time, or where does the voiceover process usually come in versus when have you more commonly experienced it?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's different on different projects. There's a misconception out there that the animation is done first and then actors come in and match the lips. It's usually the other way around. It's happened where there's dubbing, you know, and ADR, but usually it's the other way around. Very often you're going to do an animat. Yes, you're going to do layouts and drawings and all that. You will do all of that in advance, create an animatic, which of course is you know, we're speaking to the chorus here. We're speaking to the initiated. And very often it'll be scratch track. You know, it'll just be the crew or the directors or the animators or somebody just doing the voices, because we need to see what is it going to look like. It's very visual. Need to see what it's going to look like. But then, of course, the next step is to finalize the script and cast it, and then get the voices recorded so the animators have a performance to work with. And that's very collaborative too, obviously. Yeah.
Have you, I'm curious about film versus television. If
And
you're,
video games too now are in the mix, of course, don't forget.
and there are awards for that, and there should be awards for that. I just recently played Expedition 33, and that is some of the best voice acting I've ever heard in my life. It's incredible. But I'm curious how animators may react on a television series if there's like a guest spot. Are they animating to that guest actor? You know, for example, it's more established at this point, but like The Simpsons, right? Sideshow Bob looks a certain way, but Kelsey Grammer was not a frequent cast member. We know him now as Sideshow Bob, of course.
Yeah.
Do animators, do they have leeway to give the character movement in the mannerisms of the voiceover actor in a guest spot?
On television?
On television.
That's difficult. When you're doing feature films, sometimes they'll videotape the actor.
Oh, there's plenty of great behind the scenes footage of that.
Yeah, so the animators then will be, not always, but they'll be able to use that as reference for motion. But when you're talking about like The Simpsons or Sideshow Bob, those are sitcoms with limited animation. So I don't think, I mean, it must be some, but I think basically the characters are extremely established to how they move and what they do. And if I haven't looked at The Simpsons in a little while, but a lot of the lines are delivered. The arms and hands are down, you know, because it's a sitcom basically. And you're in, you know, closer on the character very often, and they just move their mouths. But yes, of course there's acting. That's the animation. That's the craft of animation, you know.
Two-part question on that note. Do you find there's a difference between voiceover actors sitting down and while they're giving their lines and standing up? And then also in a television process, when you bring in a voiceover actor for a season, are all their days consecutive, or are they brought back over time?
They're brought back over time.
Over time.
You can't, because the writing, everything happens, you know, it's a staggered schedule. It depends let's try this in English. It depends how many episodes you've got. I've worked on shows where there were just a handful of episodes, and I've worked on shows where, like I had wrote season 6 of Bubble Guppies. We had 26 episodes to do. That's over a long stretch of time. So it takes time to write the episodes, do the layouts and the designs, and build the props and create the animatics. So you keep bringing people back. It's a scheduling process, you know. In feature films too, you can't possibly do it all in one shot unless you're doing a short. If you're doing a short, you can just get it all done, and then hopefully you don't have to call them back because you have to pay them again.
Fair point.
Yeah.
And then
what was the other part of the question?
Oh, if you find there's a difference in performance between standing down and standing up and sitting.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's interesting. Everyone has their preference. It's rare that you're going to have somebody sitting. You know, they might have their butt on a raised bench. You want to be able to use your carriage. You want to be able to use your whole body, you know, to deliver a voice. It's hard when you're sitting down to do it. Try it yourself. You know, take your phone and record yourself saying something sitting down, and then stand up, and you're going to have so much more volume and power to deliver. And so, in my experience, most performers have wanted to stand. Yeah, and it's singing too. Singing, they have to be standing. Well, not have to, but they most always
Oh,
are.
yeah. Open up the diaphragm.
Exactly.
How many instances, I know specifically who we'll be speaking with later, Marty, this applies, but
Yeah.
talking about writing for a voice with that in mind. But how often have you just heard a voice just out in the world and been, I need to write something for this voice?
It happens. It happens. Definitely. I, I I had a character. I had a character I created for something. She was. I mean, it was comedy, but
Hmm.
she was a terrible character and abusive of her son, and but in a comedic way. It was all. It was all for laughs. And my writing partner and I worked on that one together, and I designed it. And we thought, oh my God, Shelley Winters. So we wrote it basically with for Shelley Winters. Uh, Later career Shelley Winters, fat from the Poseidon Adventure, shrill, very quirky,
Hmm.
all that. And did I ever tell you the story? We got
No.
her. We actually, I went to her agent and we got her. So we were over the moon. We were so happy that we got her. We booked, and we were recording other people for the same project. This was going to be in Los Angeles. I live in New York. And about a day or two before we're flying to LA to do the recording, I get a phone call from Shelley Winters yelling at me, I'm not going to do it. And I said, what do you mean you're not going to do it? You said we're ready to record. We've booked the studio. We have airline tickets. We have every hotel. No, I'm not doing it. The character is demeaning to women. And I said, Shelley, it's not meant to be demeaning. It's a comedic character. It's all for laughs. No, you tell my agent I'm not going to do it. But I pleaded with her for quite some time. And the more I pleaded, the more obstinate she became, and the shriller she became, and the more she sounded exactly like the character that we wanted her to play, but exactly like the character. So I had to call her agent and say, Shelley said I should call you to say that she's not going to do it. And he said, she said that, huh? I said, yes. And I said, and now what are we supposed to do? I'm stuck. I've got to come in and do this. So he had other clients. And sorry, this is a longish story. I'll try to make it short.
That's okay.
Who else do you have? He said, oh, well, Estelle Getty. I said, okay, well, you know what? Estelle Getty from Golden Girls, and I saw her on Broadway in Torch Song Trilogy. Wonderful comedic actress. Said, sure. So we had to rewrite some lines, rethink it a little bit. Came in, started to record her. She was delightful, except nobody told us she had the onset of Alzheimer's.
Oh.
She could not do the performance. She was as sweet as can be in between trying to perform the part. So we had to record the whole thing, and we had to throw out the entire performance, which was extremely painful. I still have all these recordings, which meant we were back to square one, and we ended up coming back to New York and getting Ann Mira, who knocked it out of the park. She could be nasty and funny. Anyway, I don't even know what sent me off on that tangent just now, but we were picturing her voice. That's what we started talking about, and ended up shifting gears several times.
Well, I think that shows a great, even in anime, because in the corporate and the branded worlds, and primarily, if there's not a lot of wiggle room in animation in general, but in the corporate world, it's very much, here's what we're doing. There's no flexibility. Maybe we can find those margins where there is flexibility. But you just gave a really good story about how there is flexibility in certain situations, and a great deal of flexibility. You can find it in places you don't expect. And I think for me, one of the most magical parts of animation is the behind the scenes stories that you just don't hear because it's not as marketed as live action outside of Sell a Toy. Those stories they're not really making the rounds on the talk shows as much. And if they do, it's just the voice actors. You're not having the animation directors tell these stories when they really should be. So, Allan, if I am someone who's looking to put my foot into directing animated projects, animated features, animated shows. What can I expect?
Well, I would say get onto a production and work with the people who've been doing it for a long time, because you will learn a lot from them. Timing is very important. Um, you have to know how to time out a scene.
Mm.
You have to know how to work with the actors and you have to know how to work with the animators, with the whole crew. It's such a group effort. It's not something you come out of the gate knowing. When I started, I mean, I didn't. I had been drawing my entire life. I had been drawing cartoons and writing comic books and all of that. When I started working in animation, I learned a lot from the people I was working with. Some really smart, creative, funny people, and I learned from watching directors. I originally I was not doing the directing. I'd be in the booth as the writer or the producer, and I would watch how they worked with the actors and help them paint the picture. And I worked with directors who worked with the artists and the layout people and all of that. I did Before I was doing TV work. I did have my own animation production company. I went to work for an animation production company when I was 23 or 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was graphic animation. Although I did do some cell animation just because I loved it, always loved it as a kid. I knew I didn't want to do that full time, but I learned and learned and learned. And then you also find out if it's something you want to do. You know, you may say to someone, "Oh, I want to make cartoons," or "I want to direct a film," but you don't know what it's like to be in the trenches and actually how hard that job is. I learned some time ago, I do not want to direct feature films. You know, happy to write them, happy to produce them. Same thing in television. You know, I have directed a little bit, but I may be directing a live action thing in the fall for TV, but it's few and far between. I'm just going to do it for the fun of doing it and the challenge of doing it. So I would say learn from everybody that really knows what they're doing, and you'll not only will you know if you want to do it at that point, but you'll get really work with good people, and you'll get skilled yourself. You'll develop your own style. You'll develop your own skills. Yeah. Does that kind of answer the question?
It certainly does. Is there anything that we should know before we get to our two guests today?
I mean, we have a very interesting pair of guests today, in that here we've been talking about voiceover performers, many of whom are extremely versatile and do many, many, many different voices. You know, there are people like Tara Strong, you know, who's done well over 1,000, maybe 2,000 voices, and Billy West, and they can just change their voices. And then you have performers who become very well known for one voice, and it becomes iconic, and they're known for that voice, and they don't have, and even though they can do other things, they're not like the chameleons that we were talking about. So in the case of Marty Grabstein, Courage the Cowardly Dog. I believe that's the only animated voice he's ever done, and he's known for it, and he's in great demand as the voice of Courage. Cheryl Chase, who's a versatile actress, and she's got new projects she's going to tell us about, I'm sure. But Angelica Pickles, for how long now? 25 years, 30 years?
At least.
Longer, maybe. You know, she became known for one voice. And then we have the archive interview that I did with Pat Carroll, who was a very versatile performer who had done a million things on television and film. And yet her most famous role is Ursula the Sea Witch in Little Mermaid. And I knew Pat very well. She didn't mind that at all, despite having done all this other work, working on your show of shows with legendary comedians, and she was in Cinderella. She was one of the stepsisters.
That's how I knew her, was one of the stepsisters with the crick in her knee.
That's right. And she was really funny. And anyway, it's a longer story than that, but she became known as Ursula and loved it. She knew that role was going to live forever because it was a classic Disney animated film.
She is one of the greatest, most flamboyant Disney villains.
I wonder, I mean, we know Robin Williams was an amazing comedian and actor and had done so many movies, and yet possibly the most famous thing he ever did was the genie in Aladdin.
Yep. I wanted to be the genie. That was my growing up. That was what I wanted to be growing up, was the genie. I wanted to have the ability to do anything and grant people wishes. That was the goal.
If you ever figure it out, let me know, because I'll rub that lamp and I want my 3 wishes.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack with that one.
Yes, it is. Plus, you're going to have to be in a very tiny little lamp.
Itty bitty living space.
Itty bitty, right? But we're blathering on. Let's bring our guests on and hear what they have to say. Let's hear their voices.
Let's meet Marty and Cheryl.
Joining us today on Makin Toons, we have two of the most loved and pretty unmistakable voices, iconic, I would actually call them, in animated television, and very, very few performers achieve that status. Cheryl Chase, the voice of Angelica Pickles on Rugrats, a character who manages to be bossy and hilarious and terrifying, sometimes all at the same time. And we have Marty Grabstein, the unmistakable voice of that insane pink dog from Courage the Cowardly Dog. A performance that turned fear and vulnerability and sheer panic into something really funny and sometimes unexpectedly moving. Full disclosure, I have had the pleasure of writing multiple episodes for both of these shows, two of my all-time favorites when people ask, what have I ever done? And having a front seat to watching how much these performances of these two guests today have shaped the shows themselves. Angelica and Courage have both become iconic, but in very different ways. And the audiences are all across the board, spanning generations, kids still discovering them for the first time, and adults who've never let them go, who are still big fans. So today we're going to go straight to the brat's mouth and the dog's muzzle to chat about your careers. And what does it mean to create a character that lasts as long as they have, probably forever? How those roles change your lives as performers, and what actually happens inside the recording booth when these voices come to life. So welcome, Cheryl. Welcome, Marty, to our podcast.
Thank you.
It's delightful to have you. And we're joined by my wonderful co-host, Raz Cunningham, the inestimable Raz Cunningham.
Hello.
Because we can't estimate him.
No, I can't estimate myself sometimes.
No, no one can estimate anybody at this point. So I'm going to throw out some questions just to kick us off here. And anybody who wants to jump in first, and please feel free to talk with each other if you'd like to as well. You've both worked on many other jobs in your careers, animation, a lot, live action, I assume on stage too. I know I've seen Marty on stage. When you were starting out as performers, what were your career aspirations? I'm just so curious. Cheryl?
Oh, okay. I'll go first. I
wanted you to go first. I want to respect you, my dear.
Oh, you're such a gentleman, my goodness.
It's all an illusion.
What my aspirations were is I wanted to be an actress. I was always, when I was younger, creating characters and playing around with my friends and doing little skits. And I just felt that I didn't go to school for, that yet. And when I went to college, I went into child development, and then I went into teaching deaf children acting. And I thought, why do I want to be in a classroom teaching what I want to do professionally? So I changed my major. And then I went into trying to get on-camera acting, and it wasn't really happening for me, but voiceover was. So I started getting parts in little radio things, and I moved out to LA, and I started getting parts on Hanna-Barbera, with Disney, just little bit parts. And I didn't really get on Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy until 4 years later. So, and then the rest is history.
Well, let's talk about the Hanna-Barbera stuff, for example, like in the Disney. What did you actually do? What shows did you work on? You said they were bit parts, but what were they?
Let's see. If I said Disney, correct. I'm sorry. It was not Disney.
Doesn't matter. It's okay.
Hanna-Barbera, and there was a show at Hanna-Barbera called Foofer. So I was I was a poodle on Foofer. And to be honest with you, it's been so long ago that it escapes me right now. But
that's okay.
But yeah, so maybe Marty has some fun things to say.
Hopefully, I don't. My feeling is that. By the way, am I too loud still?
You're always too loud, but not right now.
You're always too loud. All right. So, I mean, my thing was since I was 3 or 4 years old, I, just had to do this, and I had to do it, and I didn't really think about whether I'm going to make any money at it or not. I just have to do acting, and that's something what was, the world was waiting. I thought the world was waiting for it, and so I always did it. And pretty much, I did go to school for acting. I did go to school for theater. A fat lot of good it did me, but they don't prepare you for how are you going to get a job as an actor. And, but you work 4 years to discover that. But that's going to be quite a daunting task for you. But in general, my goal, that question was just to work, just to be a working actor, and hopefully one day, not have to have a survival job to bolster my income. The only income I was making was from acting. So that was my goal. Whether I achieved it or not, I did achieve it, but much, much, much later than I ever thought it would happen. But along the way, had amazing rides on stage, comedy act, with a partner. We wrote and performed our own material for 8 years all over the city.
That's New York City you're referring to, right?
New York City.
Right.
Sorry. My geocentric reality. I don't think I have to, clarify my New York background. But yes, you're right about that. Anyway, so, and independent films, occasional work on character work on TV shows and things like that. And Courage the Cowardly Dog came.
Which we'll get to.
Which we're going to get to. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm not going to answer it yet, Allan.
Do not answer it yet.
I will not answer it yet.
Because my next natural question, of course, is how did you end up on the shows that we know you for? And we're going to let Cheryl elucidate us first.
Oh, okay. I ended up on my show, but I started out working at Spunko, which is the production company for Ren and Stimpy show. I did the pilot, and then I was asked to be a receptionist at the studio, and I would be learning all about making a cartoon. I knew all about, Ren and Stimpy like a year before it was going to make its debut, and it was quite exciting. But John, Christopher Lucy, he let me go to auditions while I was working there. And I was doing Walla work on Simpsons. And I was, because I went and auditioned at Klasky for the pilot, didn't get the pilot. Then a year or so later, the show was sold, the pilot was sold, and they had to develop more. So Paul Germain created Angelica. So I went and I saw this little 3-year-old girl, and I thought, well, how would I sound like a 3-year-old girl? So I just wung it, and I got the part. And how it happened was I was working on The Simpsons, and my agent called, and I took the call, and they said, "Oh, you got Rugrats. You're Angelica." And I thought, oh man, that's cool. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together because I was busy working, but I didn't realize how, it became a $1 billion global franchise. It was just this little cartoon. We didn't know whether we were going to have a second season or not. And I had to work, Ren and Stimpy. I still had to work while doing Rugrats. But then later on that changed. But yeah, that's how.
So when you say you were working at Ren and Stimpy as a receptionist?
Yeah, I was the receptionist first, and then I was graduated to casting coordinator. And
Okay.
I at that time he Nickelodeon wanted John to audition for audition. He had to audition for Ren. And we were auditioning people for Ren, and well, Billy West was Stimpy, but they were looking for a Ren, and I got to meet Tom Kenny, SpongeBob. I got to meet Carlos Alazraqui. They were all young and starting out, and I got to meet them, through the auditions. I would call them in and tell them that I call the agents and say that we're doing this. So that was to meeting them at their stage in the beginning stages. I was at the beginning stages of cartoon, a new evolution of cartoon and the dawn of the 90s era, of great 90s cartoons. So
Actually, this podcast, which is being presented by Tongal, was inspired by a book I wrote 20 something years ago about what you just described, which was the boom of the toon boom that started in the 90s and still going to this day. When I spoke to Vanessa Coffey, who greenlit the show, and I mean,
yes.
I knew so many. We have a lot of friends in common. I knew everybody on Ren and Stimpy, including John. But that's another story for another day.
Yes.
It is, and we won't go there on this particular show. But Marty, how did you end up voicing Courage? I mean, I know the story, but
I know you know the story, but
tell
you
us,
have to. But
tell
I'm
us the
gonna
capsule
tell you.
version. Yeah,
I'm going to tell my version of
tell
it.
your
the way
version.
I receive it. So anyway, I got a call from this wonderful guy that I'm looking at, Allan Neuwirth, right here. His delightful and glorious sister, Risa Neuwirth, called me up. I haven't spoken to Risa for a few years, actually, before she called me. And she called me out of the blue, and she said, "Marty, it's Risa. It's so good to hear from you." She said, "Listen, are you still acting?" I said, I am still acting. I figured so, but I just wanted to make sure. I am working for this guy, John Dilworth, who's actually created and is now casting for the lead character in a new TV cartoon series called Courage the Cowardly Dog. And he's listened to every voice actor in the city. She said a couple of hundred voices, and has not been able to arrive at a decision for how this character is going to sound. So somehow he's driving me crazy. I figured I might as well reach out to some of my friends. Maybe I'll have better luck. So I'm reaching out to you. I think you would be great at playing this severely neurotic, hyper creature who's so afraid of everything, and somehow at the 11th hour finds his bravery and somehow manages to save the day. And called Courage the Cowardly Dog. So would you be willing to do that? Sure. What is it? What do I need to? You have a script for me? Not really. I don't have a script for you. And actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I came in the next day to the audition, the day after the phone call. It was really very fast.
Probably
so
did, yeah.
I didn't really prepare for that. What kind of preparation am I going to do? Actually, right? So I just walked in, and somehow I was surprisingly very relaxed, even though I never done any animation voiceover, anything like that in my life. And somehow I walked in, because it's interesting the way Risa painted the picture for me. She said that basically he's been auditioning for months. So I was actually thinking, maybe I can, I swear I thought this, maybe I can ease his pain. And maybe I'm going to go in and somehow stop all this madness of auditioning. So I went in very relaxed and confident, and I know that had to help me a lot. So within a couple of minutes, I was doing things. I painted the picture of the Jewish, New Yorkish thing like I am, and I was saying things, all the things I do for love. What do I do? What do I do? Muriel, and he was laughing a lot. So that was a good sign. The guy was laughing. But he said, can you just pitch it a little bit higher? So I went, what did I do? What did I do? And he said, we got it. I think, give me a couple of more nights. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think I want you for the job. I just need to clear it with Cartoon Network. And pretty much, I pretty much knew in theory that I got the job during the audition.
Wow, that's unusual.
That doesn't happen very often. So it's a beautiful thing. And also a lesson about confidence.
I guess so. And what was your eureka moment, Cheryl?
My eureka moment. Well, I remember when I was doing when we were in production, we were recording the episode, season 1. I asked the director, or Paul Germain, and I asked him why did they pick me? Why? What was it about me? And so he said, well, we auditioned a lot of girls, and we picked you, and we picked another person, and we sent the tapes to New York. And Vanessa, she just listened to the tapes, and they were, but they liked both of them. And they said, let's just go with Cheryl. I mean, and it's like, oh my gosh, something like that. That like changed those little words. Oh, let's just go with Cheryl. Changed my whole life. Yeah.
How did you hear that? How did you find that out?
Through Paul Germain.
He called you?
No, I asked him on set. I asked him at the recording studio. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of,
we might as well just go with Cheryl. That's funny, man.
Yeah.
You know who your competition was?
No, I don't know. I don't know that. But a sad thing though is the first cast, the first Tommy was not E.G. Daily. They had another girl. And we recorded, I don't know, about 4 or 6 episodes. And New York decided that she doesn't sound a lot like a boy. Oh. And so she was so sweet, whoever she was. She got us Christmas presents, all of the cast, and they let her go. And I mean, E.G. is great, but it's so sad. An actor is so excited to get a part like that, and then they have to be let go. That's a sad thing.
You know what? I had that on a show too. I'm not going to name the show, but we had a different lead character, a different lead actor, and we recorded about 5 or 6 episodes. And the powers that be decided we had to let this guy go and bring in somebody wonderful. I won't say the name because that would give it away. But what were you going to say, Raz?
Oh, I was just going to say, Cheryl, that's a very interesting dichotomy that you have of a decision maker saying, let's just go with Cheryl. And it changes your life. Yeah. And then letting someone go after that actor already knew that my life is going to change. And then, sorry, it's just not working out. The dichotomy of the emotional roller coaster in the performing world and the artistic world is no easy thing to manage.
The tenuous nature of this business is so like anytime it's just one small thing.
Yeah.
Was I there for Reese's call? When I came in, he might have really enjoyed me, but made me said, let's just go with Bobby instead of Marty. Let's just go with Bobby. And it happened to be going with Marty. So it's a spiritual thing.
Yeah, it's the universe at work, because I know we've all heard so many stories about famous roles, and 10 people were considered, and maybe 5 people were seriously considered, and then maybe they were going to hire actor A or actor B, and they didn't want the role, or they couldn't take it because of scheduling or whatever, and then someone else gets it, and it becomes one of the most all-time loved or memorable characters in on film or on television.
Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin for the Graduate.
That's right. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Charles Grodin for The Graduate, and Dustin Hoffman as the Nazi playwright in The Producers.
Yes.
Wow.
And then there was
wanted him. Yeah.
I forget the original actress's name, but Kate Mulgrew was not the first Janeway. You can actually see the
Genevieve Bujold.
Thank you. Bujold's performance is not what that character called for, and you see the same exact scenes played and just the difference that an actor brings.
I know Kay, and I've talked to her about it. And it's fate. It's the universe. It's the fickle finger of the universe reaching down and touching.
Right.
And
I have a fickle. I'm sorry.
No, I want to hear. No, please.
Please talk about your fickle finger.
I want to hear about your finger now, please.
No, your fickle story. Yeah, I have. Where there was this popular cartoon show. My cousin was on the show, and she said, "Oh, Cheryl, there's a part on the show. They're looking for a Cheryl Chase type." Well, so I thought, "Oh, I'm a shoo-in." So I go to audition, and I end up not getting the part, and so they pick somebody else. But there's some other Cheryl Chase out there, Cheryl Chase type. That but that was kind of funny, that they wanted me, but I can't say that. Maybe I was a bad actress. I don't know.
You know what you remind me of, Cheryl? There was I'm a big Chaplin fan. I loved his films, and there was a story about a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest that was held. I believe it was either here in New York City or in Los Angeles, and he decided as a joke to show up for it with the other contestants, and he did not get picked.
Chaplin himself showed up?
Yes, he did, and he did not. He didn't get picked.
Funny.
And Jim Curry tells a story that I heard recently. He went to see Rocky Horror Picture Show in the theater. I think it was it 8th Street Playhouse where it started, Marty?
Yes, the Waverly.
Waverly first, and he went
and moved to 8th Street.
Yeah, he went, and they told him that he was an imposter. They threw him out of because he had talked his way into the theater because he said he was Tim Curry. It's on social media. You can find him talking about it. It's really funny.
That's crazy.
But let's talk about these characters because they are iconic characters in the annals of cartoon history. Both the characters that you've had a huge part in playing. Animation is such an interesting thing because yes, it's very visual, and the drawing style is important, and the design of the character and the shape. And Raz and I have talked about this, a lot. But the voice is very, very important. The acting, the personality. It's a combination of talents. One cannot exist without the other, obviously. And you both just happen to create these characters. Courage, a reluctant hero. Angelica, an anti-hero, a little tyrant. One of you runs away. One of you runs away from danger, terrified, or runs toward terrified, and the other one runs the room without ever leaving the room. Why? But why is it? And I've written for Angelica, and I've written for Courage. Why do you think we, as an audience, root for? I think I know why we root for Courage, because he's kind of a schlemazel. He's in danger. He's protecting the Muriel and the farmer and all that. But he's got to be. But Angelica is a terror, and she's so much fun to write. I imagine she must be a lot of fun for you to play. Why do we root for her? And we do.
Well, I think everybody has an Angelica in their life, and you just like to see them get their comeuppance, and that makes me think of a story. The Rugrats in Paris premiere. We were Sherry Lansing at that time was the head of the studio, Paramount. And she was my hero. I thought Sherry Lansing was it. And so my girlfriend, we were sitting in the audience at the Grauman's Chinese at that time. Yeah, we were sitting in the audience, and my girlfriend, who worked for Paramount, was on the aisle, and I was sitting next to her. And Sherry Lansing was coming up the aisle, and Kristen goes, "Oh, there's Sherry." And so Kristen grabs Sherry and says, "Hey, Sherry, this is Cheryl Chase." And Sherry Lansing goes, "Oh, you're Cheryl Chase. I've been wanting to meet you. Are you going to be at the party?" I go, "Yeah." And so she leaves, and I was so flummoxed that happened, my hero, that I couldn't, the movie was a daze. I was just trying to think of, I'm going to get one moment with her. And so I have to think of what to say. So, we cross the street. Am I talking too much?
Not at all.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So
No.
okay.
Look, you're a voice performer. You
Yeah,
can
I need to hear you talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Anybody would just stop me from talking. Also,
Oh, Marty. So okay,
please continue.
so we cross the street, and she's there waiting on the sidewalk, and she grabs my hand, takes me across. Sherry, she grabs my hand, takes me across, introduces me to her team, and then she says to me, "Cheryl, when I was little, I was you." And I said something very profound. I wish I could, but I wish I could remember what it is so I can tell you. But whatever it was, I made an impression. And but really, I mean, Angelica, the character, touches so many people, and she's so relatable. And here's Sherry Lansing. She related with Angelica. She thought that she was her, when she was little. So I think there's a little Angelica in all of us, but sometimes we're afraid to, let her out. Maybe Tommy and Chucky are more safer to be, than the little Angelica.
They are. And Marty, do you have some courage in you?
Absolutely. And interesting, you said a little bit already, Allan, about, why people relate to courage and why a little bit of that. But really, really at the core of the whole thing is fear is something that's so ubiquitous. Let me say it again, ubiquitous. And everywhere you go, people are dealing with their own fears, and most of the fears are created, right? So much of a really fearfulness comes from not monsters and scary people on the outside, but somehow what we create internally, right?
Very true. Very true.
So the idea that this really really vulnerable, diminutive creature. He's small and he's vulnerable and he's frightened and he's so dependent on the love of Muriel and the probably the fact that he has a house, a roof over his head, and food in his bowl from Eustace. I like to give Eustace a little bit of credit once in a while. He gets a bad rap a lot of the time, but basically he's so diminutive and so fearful. Somehow, if he can somehow reach down into himself and find his inner bravery, which I did learn to do that. A guy with a lot of fears and anxieties going on when I was a kid, and I can identify with being able to somehow reach in and gonna stand up against the bully in the playground. I'm gonna stand up against people, or anti-Semitic people who was saying bad things. I'm going to do it even though I might get just shit kicked out of me. See, I wanted to test that water, Raz, if I could say shit. So hopefully we're going to see what happened, right, Cheryl? So,
Right.
The fact that I do identify with that, there's so many people. And I now doing the convention scene, I'm doing a lot of conventions, these Comic-Cons. So I'm seeing the fans and they are telling me in masses how much their anxiety was helped, assisted, held by courage.
Really?
Courage became people sometimes crying in my arms that hug me because they suffered so much as a kid and growing up, and they watched it with their mothers or their fathers, somebody, a single parent family, somebody died, so many possible things, anxiety, fearfulness, and somehow courage helped them get through it somehow. Imagine that. So they give me the credit. Of course, I was so lucky, fortunate to have the opportunity that Dilworth created the show and chose me for it, that I can breathe life into this character. But actually, it's a beautiful thing that not only am I making money of the conventions, but actually being able to see how much something I did really touched people's souls, touched people's hearts. So that's a beautiful thing. And I now know that courage was special in that sensibility, actually.
It makes me very, okay.
Yeah,
I was going to ask Cheryl. She probably knows what I was going to ask her, but go ahead.
Please,
as Marty was talking about how it affects people, these days, I would meet a millennial who grew up on the show, and they're so, like, they do cry. Sometimes they're so full of emotion they cry because Rugrats was their childhood, and a lot of times they didn't have good upbringings, and they were, in a big family, but they felt alone. But Rugrats spoke to them, and they would go to school. Stress would be at school, maybe stress is at home, but they come home, they get their snack, they sit in front of the TV, and they watch Rugrats, and the family joins in too, because the writing, Allan, to you too, it's brilliant writing from the Rugrat writers, and that's what brought families together. And I think what started is when Nickelodeon put Rugrats on it started on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, or just Sunday, I don't remember, at 10:30, and then they decided to put it on Monday through Friday during the dinner hour at 6:30, and that's just when families
That's brilliant, actually.
were gathering, and that's what happened, and a big Rugrat frenzy throughout the country happened because the families were coming together. Then the movies came and the live stage show, and the rest is history. But I think it's that little move that the executives decided to do, which
and of course, we're living in a very
yeah.
different world now. It's not. There are still streamers that will schedule a show at a certain hour on a certain day, and you have to actually wait to get to it, which I like. Anti-heroes were not that big a thing on television until a certain point in time. When did Rugrats first come on the air? Was it the late 90s?
91.
Yeah, in August of 91, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So here you have an anti-hero that people love. What people like to watch, for lack of a better term, a villain. They loved Tony Soprano. They loved Walter White? Walter White on Breaking Bad. And there's many, many other anti-heroes, but people love to, I guess, maybe live vicariously through them. Yeah. It's safe to root for a bad guy or a bad gal, and you don't have to be one yourself. Angelica might be one of the original anti-heroes on TV.
You know what? She might be. I remember back when we were doing the show, TV Guide chose Angelica. They were doing the 50 greatest cartoon characters of all time at that time in the early 2000s, and so she got to be number 7. Above Fred Flintstone, even.
Wow.
Even above Bart Simpson. He was number 13.
I'm afraid to ask who number 1 through 6 were.
Bugs Bunny, and then Homer Simpson, and I forget, but
okay, but 7, that's
number 1.
Huh?
Bugs Bunny was number 1.
Bugs Bunny was number 1. Yeah.
I'm sure Mickey Mouse was in there someplace too.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know Betty Boop was 39, and Tom and Jerry was number 50.
Look at you remember the numbers.
Sometimes I'm good with numbers, yeah.
Oh my God. So here's a question I've been wondering. we see and Rugrats ran for a long time, and then there's the reboot, which is what I got to work on. And Courage was, I think, 4 seasons or 5 seasons, Marty? 4 seasons. What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about your characters, if any, that you've heard from folks?
So, about the whole thing. The first season, Courage had a good amount of lines. He was not a chatty guy too much, but he had a reasonable amount of lines. And then
spoken lines.
Seasons 2 through 4, they took it down about 90+%. Once in a while, he would do a Muriel out of nowhere. Somehow he would count down 1, 2, 3. Those are words. The nonsense of he talks, he doesn't talk. All of that stuff going on. It was always a source of discussion, even during the 95 with the original pilot. It wasn't a pilot, by the way, but the original Courage.
It was the Chicken from Outer Space. It was
Outer Space. It's a short film, nominated for an Academy Award.
That's right.
Anyway, once in a while, I hear people come up to me, usually people who were not huge fans of the show, kind of watched it, lukewarm. Courage doesn't have any lines. It says makes a lot of noises, right? And I said, wait a second. All the things I do for love, that's a line, God damn it. Muriel, it's a line, God damn it. I have a feeling something bad is going to happen. I get annoyed because I don't mind that people understand that in the few seasons coming up, mostly it was my vocal histrionics, which was actually carrying it rather than traditional acting lines. But I don't mind that. It's totally fine. But don't say he doesn't have any lines. My ego is affected by it.
I've got a question about that, because you did a lot of histrionics on the show, and one would think that one could create a library of those lines and just use them ad infinitum. Did they create a stock library and just reuse them, or did they have you redo screaming, panicking, histrionics fresh for every episode?
Fresh for every episode, to their credit. Number one, they're paying me anyway. So they might as well make me, maybe they're going to come up with something good that they don't have. So why not make me? I'm coming in for 3 hours, 3 and plus, for 1 day a week to do 2 cartoons in the course of the production. So why not work him? And I really give them a lot of credit for that, because they did come up with things as we went along. There was a lot of even laughter for the vocal histrionics, and my screams, I managed to find screams that defied any logical reality somehow. My screams, the length of them, the crunching, the killing, the cutting off, what apparently destroying anybody's throat, that we had it. And people were in love with the screams. So I'm very proud of that. So I wanted to record the screams every time. And so I'm glad that we got to do that.
And Cheryl, what's something about Angelica that people think they know, but you know better?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about, Allan. Marty gave such a great answer. I don't know, where you're asking if people would be misconstrued of Angelica? What exactly?
I mean, most people have a particular image and an opinion of the character, but you are the character, basically. I mean, obviously it's not you, but you've given voice to this character. You've given emotion to the character. Is she misunderstood at all by fans, or does everybody have her nailed exactly?
Well, in general,
Great.
people, they understand her and they love her. But every so often, I had parents come up to me and say they use Angelica as an example of how not to act in in their family. So, in a way, I guess the parents are misconstruing the fun, the show. I mean,
That's
the
great.
the show. I mean, Rugrats wants to show, every show needs a little villain. Everyone needs that to create conflict, and so uh i I it's like she's the villain. She's has the bad rap, I guess. She gets to, be the fall guy for, if people don't like, what she's about. Am I saying this right? I
No,
don't
you
know.
are. And it actually begs another question. Why do actors, you're both actors, why do actors love to play villains so much?
Oh,
Why?
I could I could only answer it from my personal point of view.
Please do.
Right? Because I, and generally, always uh, am seen as a somewhat comedic and kind of a nice guy, affable, affable. That's not trying to be affable. I'm quoting Larry David, but anyway, but pretty much that way. So when I get to play a bad guy, it's like a little bit about what I said earlier about your character, Cheryl. Like somehow, because she's right out of the box, she's tough, and people, I think, uh, equate that with standing up to the world. No, don't fuck with me, fellas. It's one of my first time at the rodeo, and
Yeah.
that having that by playing somebody tough, you're telling the world, don't fuck with me, fellas. It gives you a kind of power. You experience vicariously through the character a kind of power. And I think that's my basic idea
Do you
about
agree, Cheryl?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's Angelica to a T. And I remember, when we were doing Rugrats in Paris, Susan Sarandon, she was one of the actors on the show. And she did say that Angelica was her favorite because she herself loves to play the badass. So,
and she is a little bit of a badass also.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? She was so nice. So I got a chance to work with her one on one because Rugrats in Paris was her first animated film, and so she was a little nervous. So Paramount flew me out to New York, and I got to meet her one on one
Oh,
and feed her the lines. She wanted the organic experience of of actors working
oh,
together.
that's so nice.
Yeah, she was so nice to me and everyone.
Could I clarify that, Cheryl? They flew you out specifically to be with Susan Sarandon because she requested it.
Yes, yes, she requested it.
That's
I mean, what a grand opportunity that
great.
was. It
That's
really was.
wonderful.
Yeah, my lines were already done already, but she needed that experience. And
She's
Right.
used to. Actually, it's going to bring me to something I want to talk about, which is with the unique quality of acting with only your voice and not your body. We'll talk about it in a minute, but well, we can talk about it now. Why not? I was going to just make one point, and I don't even know why this is, but I know a lot of performers. We all do. We work in the business. Almost everybody I know who's played a villain is a really nice person, and I don't know why that is, but it is.
What
well,
I said before, Allan, in a sense, right? Wanting the world to see that you can walk over me. You
Yeah.
are tough.
Yeah, but let's talk about the uniqueness of doing voice work, because everybody thinks they can do voices. Everybody thinks they all
yeah,
think it's just funny voices.
and it's
I
so
I
easy.
lost count of how many people have said to me, "Oh, I want to get into voiceover acting," and I say to them, "Not everybody can do it. In fact, very few people can do it. It's a very professional and demanding job, and you don't, as an actor, you don't have the toolbox of using your physicality or your face. It's just got to be the voice. And I'm curious to hear from you guys what made you, first of all, what made you think you could do that in the first place? Because you didn't start out doing that. When did you realize that this is a sweet spot for you? Anybody? Cheryl, you can go first.
She has to go first.
Ladies first.
Actual voice actor.
Yes, she is. But so are you, Marty. So go ahead.
When did I? Yes, you are too, Marty. When did I remember I was I don't know this was back in the 80s, and I was just starting out my career, and I was I was auditioning. I was auditioning for a role, and I felt like an alien in another world. I was in this recording studio, and I was behind the glass, the control people with the director, and it was behind the glass, and I felt like I just feel, I know the difference now and back then.
Yeah.
And it's like night and day. It's like my element. And it's just, you use your whole body. You have to use, because you have to express, the acting has to come from just your voice, like you said. And it's just, you have to be free. And yeah. So
you're very physical in the booth?
Yes, I can get very physical. I do my calisthenics. No, but yeah, you have to be able to. I like to stand. I don't like to sit and do my voices. I always.
Well, you have your whole. Then you have your whole your body and your lungs, and yeah, it's much easier to do it.
Diaphragm, not crunch.
The diaphragm. Thank you. The diaphragm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Marty.
So I made that comment about not because I was feeling particularly insecure at that moment, but actually looking at with reality, because I did not choose to go for voice acting ever. I never actually made a choice. I'm going to go after voice acting, really. So basically, thanks to Risa Neuwirth, I got the chance to do this one big role, but it changed my life without a doubt. But when it comes to, because everything I've done up to that point was either on camera or on stage, and I never do voice. But I do recall stepping into the booth my first time going in, and I had I never forget this, a Poland Springs water on the desk, the microphone with a little screen protector so my pops and could calm down, and my spitting could be not going into the mic itself, because it did do a lot of saliva flying through that booth. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they stop people from acting together, because they're just spitting all over each other. I don't know if
Marty, the glass booth was invented for you.
The glass.
There was no glass until you did, Karen.
I'm proud of that, actually.
It should be.
But anyway, so I came in, and I remember, like, I had not had experience, but I see this vocal script, number 1, number 2, number 3, each line numbered, and go to number 13, go to number 19. So just one line at a time. So that's all of my acting at each moment was in one line, in one situation. So all of a sudden, I realized right away, this is great. Everything is slowed down. There's this one moment. All you gotta get is this one moment. Take a breath, and then my hands are moving. My hands are moving. That's great. That's great. Could you do it a little higher pitch? Great. Up. I'm moving. My whole body is in motion, propelling the one stinking thing that I'm working at for that moment. So that in itself became the way of working. And it was kind of, once I understood that actually just my voice, my body was very important in propelling my voice. I couldn't just sit and do it with standing still. I was not able to. So I love that.
Doesn't something else come into play, especially Angelica? You're interacting with other characters, so you have to imagine in your mind, because I would imagine most of we know how this works because we've done this a lot. Usually you don't have the luxury of being with your scene partners in the booth. You have to do your lines separately. So you really need, unless they give you playback, which doesn't happen very often because it's just too time consuming to do that, you must imagine what your scene partner is saying. So, and because acting is reacting, as everybody knows. Is that hard, Cheryl, or have you just have that innate ability to hear what the script will sound like with your other people on screen?
Yeah, it's innate because I've been doing it so long. It's so natural for me. Yeah. I mean, I had to learn. And Charlie Adler is a fantastic director, and it was amazing in the booth to work with. He fed me lines. So, yeah.
I am of the exact demographic that Rugrats was intended for at the time it aired. So it is ingrained in my memory. Reptar is a beloved figure, and every time I see a Reptar shirt, I jump for joy on an adult. But I also remember when Susie was introduced in season 2 and what that meant to myself and my sister, who was my own Angelica that I had to contend with. She saw this moment and was kind of had this moment of like, and I just remember watching her the entire episode that it aired. I'm curious as to how you reacted when you saw that Susie would be introduced, and then how that affected your performance afterwards.
Great question, Raz.
Really good question.
Yeah. Well, I know Angelica to have a kid on the block, a girl who was good. That was very frustrating for her. It just gave me working with. I mean, Angelica working with Susie just gave Angelica more ammunition to maybe push Susie's buttons. So maybe maybe Angelica kind of liked having Susie around, so she can show off even more. So
an amplification perhaps of her own personality traits. Interesting. I can see that being a thing. Sure.
Exactly. Yes.
You guys have created characters that have had toys and books and merch and T-shirts and hoodies and everything. I mean, there's I have Rugrats socks. Look at him. He's got he's got courage stuff. I got this. I mean, I had everybody.
Yeah.
How does it feel? I don't know what your contract's called for in terms of whether you have a piece of that or not. Very often, unfortunately, performers do not. Oh, look what's coming over here. How does it feel seeing a character that you co-created? It's a solid half of that character is the voice and the personality. That's scary, Marty. How does it feel for you to, in a way, be immortalized by all these toys? And do you both? Well, I think the answer is pretty apparent with Marty. He has this stuff. Do you have a lot of Angelica toys? That's part 2 of the question, Cheryl.
Yeah, I had a ton back when we were doing it. I had a ton. I had walls of all of my stuff on the walls. And what I used to do, it was I was a part of a children's charity called Famous Phone Friends, and we celebrities and voice cartoon people would be requested to talk, to sick children in the hospital. And whenever I would always do that, I'd be Angelica, and they think that you're actually talking to Angelica. I would send them little gifts of, Angelica gifts. And so my collection has greatly
dwindled.
Subside, got smaller, but I do have my contract is I don't get paid for all the merch, only when my voice is on the merchandise. Then I got paid for that.
How about you, Marty?
Oh, well, how do I feel about it?
Yeah, do you
Oh,
love it?
I love it, even though I'm not getting a single dime from it. But I am getting a dime when I do, when somebody, a promoter or convention said, we want him at a convention, these things, Funko Pops and, these kind of things uh, create my brand so much that actually promoters see this popularity and they want to have me go to the convention. So I'm getting paid that way. But I just love it strictly on a gleeful thing. It's so gleeful that fucking Marty Grabstein. Who the fuck is Marty Grabstein, actually? So all of a sudden, it's a big deal. So
You
it
know,
makes me feel it's
we're-
all an illusion, but makes me feel really good.
before we wrap up, I know that Cheryl, I know you're working on a project. You've been developing a new series. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's called Schmitty's Circuit, and it's my first live action digital web series that I exec produced, wrote, and starred in. And it's like, okay, Schmitty is a little robot, and it's like Alf with a robot. So it's like you have this quirky family, and then you have this robot. So, and I had a wonderful little person play the robot, and we had a costume. Chris Bartlett, he's on the Mandalorian, and he does he designs droid costumes for Star Wars shows. So he designed our Schmitty costume, and he also acts in the show.
This is a live action show.
This is live action, and
Wow.
it'll be coming at, well, we're doing post production right now, and in the fall is when it's going to come on YouTube.
A
Oh,
YouTube show. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
great.
Yeah.
YouTube
Yes.
is watched by more people than any other streamer right now.
Wow.
Incredible.
Thank God for that.
We'll be there.
Marty, do you have anything else going on that you
Yeah,
want to
so
plug? Let's hear it.
right now, I mean, quickly, I do have a show. I do have my short film about Hunter S. Thompson. It's on YouTube. You type in Marty Grabstein, Hunter Thompson, and will come up the short film, 18-minute film that I did, where I play Hunter Thompson. That's great. I am working right now, collaborating with another filmmaker on a short film. I can't really talk about it right now, specifics of it, but we're in the preparation stages of it, in development, but it's going to be very good. I'm very excited about it. The most exciting thing for me is that I am producing a documentary based on my son Matthew, who has autism and nonverbal autism, and some have through a very unusual, basically searching. We found at age 23 that he all of these years of nonverbal, not being able to speak, he's able to completely communicate utilizing a laminated letterboard. And now his complete personality, completely educated, as if he was one of us, speaking to a whole different person is now in my life. And that journey that he's been going on, and the joy that it's happening, how he's affecting everybody around him, is all in the documentary. So I'm very excited about this documentary.
Does it have a name? The doc?
Actually, yes. The basic name is Wired Differently. Wired Differently.
That's a
But
good
it
title,
might be
actually.
changed. But I like that name. But
Yeah.
it's going to be happening. I don't know. I think the real heavy work on it the heavy lifting, we got a lot of footage on it, but the heavy lifting is going to be this summer. So hopefully by the end of the year, we have something to show for it, you know.
Well, we can't wait to see both of your projects because they couldn't be more different from each other. But wow, they both sound fantastic. Before we, Raz, did you have any final points to make? Because I have one little thing to play if we see what happens with it. But
my final point is simple, and this has been an absolute pleasure. I can't tell you and thank you enough.
Yeah, it's been a joy. It's been a blast. I had so much fun. Yeah.
I second his motion.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer fun of it, Angelica and Courage have never been on screen together. Scooby-Doo has been on screen with Courage, and I think were there crossover episodes with Rugrats ever?
Yes, with Wild Thornberries.
With Thornberries, but same studio.
Courage show.
That makes sense. Angelica meets Courage. What would happen?
Well, if Courage didn't have enough cookies, if he didn't have any cookies, it would be an issue. So he better get out that Pillsbury Doughboy, or there's going to be Nell to pay.
But I'm wondering, Angelica, I'm giving Courage lines now. I gave him Courage. This is the first season, so giving him lines. Angelica, I really need some. I really want some cookies. Can you get me some cookies?
I'm not going to share any of my cookies with you. You're the one that has to give cookies to me. I want you right now to go and bake me some cookies, and they better be good too.
You will. I'm going to bake those cookies, and I'm going to bring them to you, and we're going to be very happy friends.
All right, you convinced me.
I love it.
And scene. Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, Raz. This was a lot of fun. And
it was great.
You're our first voice performers on the pod. This is only episode number 4.
Wow. Thanks for thinking of me.
You've christened it in that regard.
I'm so glad to meet all of you. And Marty, I want to, we have to exchange numbers. We have to
talk. I get your permission. Allan would give me your number. He can give you my number.
Yes.
We have each other's emails already because I sent the thing out to both of you. But yes,
we have to do texting. Emails get lost when it comes to this personal thing. You don't give a shit. You don't get you wash your hands of it. You already did that gesture.
Thank you. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yes, I'd love it.
By the way, it's a joy working with both of you.
Oh, thank you, Allan. You're amazing. Raz, you too. It was a blast.
I love you, baby.
Thank you.
Oh.
Well, first of all, I've known your work for a long time, but I hadn't actually ever looked at your biography until I was preparing to speak to you today. My God,
Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, what an amazing career you've had.
I know, Allan. Every day I say thank you, Lord, because when I was 13 and fell in love with the theater, I said, dear Lord, let me do this work for the rest of my life. And look at me. At 75, I'm still working. Are I lucky or what?
Yeah. Oh, you're lucky.
I am.
But you're also good.
Well,
you need more than luck.
I know so many people who are good, Allan, and even in my same age group, they are not working, and it makes me sick.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and do something about that in the future, and you watch out. I'm going to.
Okay.
All right?
We'll hold you to
Hang
that.
on to your seat, because when the old Irish biddy gets a bug in her brain, away we go.
So, I guess let's get a little bit of background before we start talking about the animation work. How old were you when you first got broke into the business?
I was officially 13 when I gave my heart to it, but it wasn't until I was 20 that I got my equity card and considered the beginning of my professional career.
Oh, and were you on the East Coast?
I came to the East Coast to work in the theater. I adored motion pictures because I knew all the extras in films. I went to so many. But the theater was what I really fell in love with.
Okay.
And now the latter part of my life, films are what I want to work in because those of us who work in the theater ride on water.
Well,
and the best work I've ever done is gone. Never to be recouped. It's just gone. But you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I suppose most work is like that if you really think about it.
It's highly unusual that anybody gets to have a record, a permanent record of what they've achieved in the world.
But I do think that motion pictures for actors comes closest. That's why I'm very careful about the films I do.
Are you?
Particularly now that I'm older, because that's the only record I'll have after me, and I want it to be the best work I can possibly do.
I think that's probably a healthy attitude.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of television, too.
Oh, yes, and one says thank you because when I came back to the theater, I did more business because of having been exposed on television. And I have to tell you, those were happy years for me.
Isn't that amazing?
I enjoyed television. I enjoyed the recognition that it gave. You couldn't travel unless people had seen something you had been on. And my first two kids grew up with my being kind of a semi-celebrity. By the time my third baby came along, I wasn't working in television anymore. So all of her chums don't know me from that. I'm Tara's mom.
Isn't that wild?
Isn't that wonderful?
Did your kids grow up watching you in Cinderella, which was on every year?
Yes, it was for 10 years on CBS.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Look at the good luck I have with fairy tales. Cinderella, The Little Mermaid. It must be my field. But it was very strange to me to see the difference in the friends of each of them. My son and my older daughter's friends all recognize me theatrically. My younger daughter's friends do not. I'm just Tara's mommy.
Well, they know who you are.
Oh, to a degree, yeah, but they don't know what I do.
They haven't seen you,
know.
Well, I would imagine some of them, or a lot of them, have at this point.
Oh, probably, if they go into archives and things like that. But I've been very fortunate, Allan, to always do what I wanted to do. At the time I was 50, I said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing only things I wish to do. And at that point, I researched, had written my one-woman show about Gertrude
The Gertrude Stein Show,
which played 18 months in New York and 4 years on the road. That really is the thing I'm most proud of theatrically.
That's a long time to stay with one project.
But it was such a good project. You know, the words were so perfect and amazing.
Did you... I was going to ask you, did you have an epiphany at the age of 50? Did you?
Yes, and I think it was brought about in that my life was changed. I was in the middle of a divorce.
Oh.
I had just had knee surgery. I wasn't getting phone calls for theatrical work.
Really?
And I suddenly thought, you know what? Nobody else is responsible for this. An agent, the directors, nobody is responsible for my livelihood but me. So let me put my thinking cap on and see what
Why do you think things slowed down at that point?
Because I was getting middle-agey.
Yeah.
I was overweight. I had a limp from knee surgery.
Okay.
I was your basic character actress that people didn't recognize that I'd been a character actress since I was 4. You know, so it's a very difficult transition for performers, and you really have to, I think, fasten your own safety belt and be responsible for your own career to a degree. The road I took, not everybody might want to take, but I thought I have to redo my work. I have to have people pay attention to what I'm doing now, not relying on things I've done in the past, but where I am and what I do now. The one-woman show was the perfect way to do it, but I didn't know it was going to be successful. I just knew I had to do it.
Right.
I rolled the dice. I optioned the play. I produced it out of my company. So, indeed, it was my play yard. It was all mine. And the same would have proved true had it been a failure.
Yeah.
But when you stick your chin out and when you take gambles, and I guess the epiphany when I was 50 was, life is not secure by the very nature of its passage, and it goes faster.
Yes.
It gets much faster as you get older, and if you've never taken gambles or risks in your life, you better start now, baby, or it's going to be too late. I've done nothing but gamble and risk since I turned 50, and I'll be 75 in May.
Wow, so that's...
I've had 25 wonderful years of taking gambles. A lot of them paid off, a lot of them didn't, but I took the risk.
That's the nature of gambling.
There's a marvelous quote that a friend of mine showed me, and it's from a Japanese writer, but it says, sometimes you just have to take the leap and build your wings on the way down.
Wow. That's
Is
great.
that something?
That is great.
And it's very true, because when you're young, you do it out of stupidity. When you're older, you do it out of sheer intellectual conviction. I am convinced of this.
Yeah.
But if you stop taking risks, you stop living.
Well, in a way, you kind of set a precedent. Well, I'm sure people had done it before you, but you borrowed a page without knowing what was going to come in the future. Many performers and pop stars and people in the public eye will reinvent themselves many times in their career.
Look at Cher.
Cher, Madonna. I mean, if you want to look at that.
Prime examples of it. Takes guts to change, and in front of people.
Yeah, that's the scary
part.
It's
like being a stripteaser. But I still admire those women for what they've done of reinvention. But I don't think we can ever stop reinventing ourselves. And I don't think it needs to be for people in the public eye. I think it has to be for you.
You're right.
To keep yourself fresh and vital and young. Not young chronologically, but young in the spirit where it counts. Look at what Disney did.
Yeah.
Here is a man who gave us all the young spirit.
Yep.
And what's his motto at Disneyland? For children of all ages?
Yeah, something like that.
And I'm the biggest kid there whenever I go. And I took my newly adopted granddaughter there for her first visit when I was in L.A. in the fall. I tell you, I've never had so much fun in my life being with that child and seeing her wide-eyed. And we got a picture of her giving 5 to Goofy, who was kneeling over, and she kissed him on his nose.
Yeah.
Now, you see, and I took my son there when he was in my womb. He wasn't even born yet, and he took his first trip to Disneyland. My kids were reared in Disneyland, practically. Wow. I'm older than Mickey Mouse, but I had my Mickey Mouse Club sweatshirt when I was a kid in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
So Mickey has fed into my life. But look at that Walt Disney, to invent eternal youth for people through his vision in animation. And it continues today.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Long after he's gone.
Long after he's gone. And that new ad they have on of the grandpa taking his little boy and showing him the statue of Disney.
Yeah, I know.
And saying, here's the man who invented all of this. And probably in the 20th century, he was one of the greatest of all of the inventors cited.
Oh, he definitely goes down as one of the great figures of the 20th century, without question.
And I'll tell you, I was, the Empress of Iran used to have those children's film festivals.
Yes.
And I was the head of a children's film center in Los Angeles, and so I went over representing our film center.
Right.
And one of those original 7 animators, Anderson, was
Ken Anderson.
Who? Ken,
sure.
Ken was there with his darling wife, Polly. They just come from Russia. Ken would walk around with a sketch pad with Disney on it.
Yeah.
He would sketch all of those characters for those children on the street corner.
Sure.
Those kids would gather around him like he was the Pied Piper. I want to tell you, I said to him, Ken, you are the ambassador wherever you go. He said, this is how Walt's vision has spread all over the world. These children know these figures better than they know who our president is.
Yeah.
They also had tremendous devotion at that time with the Empress on the throne for motion pictures. There'd be a motion picture house on every corner of 25 cents admission. I met a young boy who built his own box camera. She was giving vision to these children of Iran. I believe it has changed since then.
Yeah, I would say so.
They adored. They were in the 20th century because of this woman, this well-educated, bright lady who demanded there was one library when she came to the throne. By the time she left, there were 200.
I'm sure that's changed, unfortunately.
Of course. She asked the Shah to take the young men who had to go into compulsory military service, take their second year to go out to the nomadic tribes in the desert who could not read or speak Farsi, and through film to teach them their own language. Now that is a bright mind.
Yes, it is.
And to use the rigors of the military life for the non-military life. That's the way it should be. I came up with a thing because of the Olympics. If we had an Olympics for all the politicians and let them compete, we'd never have a war because they'd all lose. But the spirit of all of those young athletes from all over the world being together, making friends with, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, that's an idealized view of the world.
Absolutely.
I wish.
but if we don't have an idealized view, how can we ever make a realistic one?
Did the Disney folks make a fuss over you when you took, was it your grandson? Did you say to Disney?
No. I just called and I said, "Can I take my granddaughter?"
Oh, it's a
She's
granddaughter.
a little girl. My granddaughter, Disney, they had passes for me.
Okay.
So wonderful. God bless.
They didn't know Ursula was walking among
No,
them?
I don't say. Unfortunately, I only look like her a little bit.
I don't think you look at all like her.
I always say when people say, "Well, they used you as the model," I said, "Why, no, I'm really the size of Jane Powell. Get out of here."
But they didn't use you. They did not use you as the physical model.
Of course they did, and I found out
It was
why
divine. They were using divine.
I know, partly divine, partly me, but you know what? They had a camera in the studio.
Oh, yes, I know.
Sessions, and I finally thought, this is going up to the office so that they know whether you're on time or not. This is like big brother. Okay, that's how naive I was, right? So I finally had the guts to ask one of the guys in the booth. I said, "Gentlemen, please, will somebody explain, why is this television camera here?" They started to laugh. You know how you're sitting in the studio and you see them rocking back on their chairs?
Sure.
And I said, "Is this going upstairs to the big bosses? Is this in lieu of a time clock? What is this, please?" And one of the fellows, I forget which one, said, "No, Pat, that's for the animators, because actors many times do physical things that allow the animators to anthropomorphize what they're drawing."
Exactly.
Oh, whew, what a sigh of relief for me. But I have to tell you that whole experience, and I went to audition for this.
Well, we're going to talk about this now. Okay, let's jump into it, but let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
Is Ursula the very first voiceover role you ever did?
No, I had done a lot of cartoon work for Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I'd done about 3 or 4 series for them. I even did a series that was voiced here and animated in Japan that my old darling Howie Morris directed.
No kidding.
Yeah, I did about 5 years.
Do you remember what the show was?
Oh, God. Something high.
Or what were the Hanna-Barbera shows that you worked
The
on?
Hanna-Barbera shows were Pound Puppies.
Okay.
God, something else. I can't remember half of them. You do so many of these.
I know.
I can't remember the names of them.
Of course.
But Pound Puppies, I really played a character that was kind of a precursor of Ursula. She was a mean woman, like Cruella, and she hated dogs. And her little niece had care of all these dogs. She kept like a pound for all of these little lost doggies.
Right.
And they had like a whole community and everything. And this woman was always chasing them. And she was, she had that kind of voice. So I hate dogs. I could dogs. She was very piss elegant and just miserable. And her little girl called her Mommy Dearest, which I always loved. It was a good series.
Okay.
It was a darling series, and we had loads of fun.
So you had done voiceover work
Yes,
before?
I had, and I loved it because it's clean work.
Yeah.
It's lovely, clean work. You can show up in your gardening clothes if you wish.
This is true.
And all that's demanded is from your neck to your jaw. Your voice box is all that's needed, and an operative mind sometimes.
Yeah.
But it is so cleverly demanding and yet so relaxed in the doing of
Let's
it.
talk about that for a moment before we get into specifics. I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you enjoy more, acting before a live audience or doing voice work?
They're equal to me because
Are
I'm
they?
still acting when I'm doing voice work.
Okay.
But it's my own little world. The minute you step in front of an audience, you're sharing your world, and you pray that they will share with you. But in voice work, it's your own little world of acting, and it's wonderful. The only thing between you and all of your meanderings is the director, and they're usually awfully good because they know what is demanded between your voice and what's on the storyboard.
Of course.
They know exactly where it's going. So if you go a little too far afield or you don't give enough, it's very bravura acting. That voiceover stuff. It's very big. So if you tend to be subtle, that's not the field for you.
I hear you.
You have to be over the top because the demands are very loud and vocal and in primary colors. This is according to me, the Bible according to
it's a very interesting viewpoint, actually.
But I love it because you can go wilder than you go in front of a camera or wilder than you go on a stage because everything is more contained on the stage and you've worked out the choreography and it's all, emotions are built to a pitch. And this you can be totally wild, go over the top constantly, and they love it.
Would you say it's harder or easier than acting with your entire body?
It's different. It's just different.
You can't even categorize it as harder or easier, can you?
No, you can't.
Okay.
It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's equal because it demands the same kind of energy, sometimes more energy, and it demands a visualization, an externalization of what you're doing going into another character.
Some have said to me that they believe that it's actually harder because you cannot use your body language
No,
or
you can't.
your hands to help you create. You have
There is no nuance.
Yeah.
There is no subtlety.
strictly your voice.
Strictly your voice. And the better your voice is trained, I think the more you can do in that field, because you can go, so funny little teacher, or you can be way down there. But you have to have that range.
Right.
And that's why I don't think I could have done voice work had I not done the 5 years of Stein.
Right.
Where my voice was at the peak. I had a brilliant vocal coach from that university in Philadelphia, Temple.
Okay.
And even on the road, she kept me. I called her one day. I said, Julia, I'm having a problem. She said, yes, I know you are. It's in your back. Go see a chiropractor tomorrow. I went, and there was something up my back.
Really?
Extraordinary woman.
Wow.
When you have a vocal coach like that, and in 5 years playing that show, I never missed a performance because of vocal problems or anything. Now that's some kind of record.
That's a pretty amazing record.
You know, and I lay all of that at the feet of Dr. Julia Wing, who kept my voice in absolute control. She extended my octave range by at least an octave and a half.
Wow.
But I was not smoking. I was not drinking. I lived like a nun.
Do you still?
Are you kidding? I have not smoking. I've stopped smoking.
Okay.
But I do have the occasional drink, my dear.
You're allowed.
For old age, it's quite good for you. It keeps all the corpuscles just jumping.
That's what they say.
Well, believe me, it's true. But I want to tell you, I suddenly realized how important the voice is to an actor. And you think that actors are being said, no, I can't do that because of my voice. You know, they're right. Because that's the only instrument you have, folks.
Oh, yeah. And plenty of times it goes out on you, and then what are you left with?
Yeah, what do you do then?
Mime. That's a
Yeah, that's it. Well, it's not too popular these days. You don't see many on street corners anymore, do you?
No, you don't.
But I do think that the vocal ability, or maybe someone is very gifted with a certain kind of quirk in the voice, which is also usable.
Yes.
Though they might be limited because of that. But I say bravo that you've got that. Well, look at his wonderful self, that darling man who was in films for so many years, who did.
Who are you thinking of now?
Oh, the guy who did not Wind in the Willows, but In the Forest, the 100-Acre Forest. Who?
Sterling Holloway?
No, he's Sterling Holloway. There was a voice that you always recognize.
Very unusual voice.
A very unusual voice, but was it not perfect for those particular characters?
And he did many, actually. He had a long and storied career doing voices for Disney.
Absolutely.
Oh.
But that voice was so right for children.
Yeah, you're right.
And for the gentleness of it and the eccentricity of it.
Oh, yeah.
Was exactly perfect for what they live with. So it's not only the voice that has three-range octave, but the voice that's quirky.
Yes, there's a fellow thespian of yours who's going to be in the book. I've interviewed him already, Arnold Stang.
Oh, of course, my God. Arnold was also recognizable. But
absolutely.
what a perfect voice, because it cut glass.
Yep.
You know, right there, and it was brilliant.
Yes. Yeah.
And Arnold used his voice and his persona for years to be, a headliner
he still
in this
does.
profession. And God bless him.
He still
and God
works.
bless all of us who are still working.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, aren't we fortunate, Allan?
Definitely.
But I say, youngsters will say to me, how do you get into that field? And I say, I really don't know.
Yeah.
If I had to break into it today, I wouldn't know where to start.
Sure.
I was just fortunate enough. I'd done a few things in New York before I went back to the West Coast, so that I had a little bit on my resume, and I had good commercial agents who put me up for everything, and so I just fell into things, I guess.
So let's take that as a jumping off point and get into Little Mermaid. How did you get submitted for that role?
Well, my film agent called me and said...
Who was your film agent at the time?
At the time? Oh, my God.
Do you remember?
It's been so long, I don't remember his name.
That's
I haven't been with him in years.
Don't worry about it.
But he calls and he said, would you do an audition? And I said, I am always open to audition if it's the right thing. He said, it's a new animated film for Disney. I said, when do I go? I had said before I died, I wanted to be in one Disney thing.
That was a goal of yours.
That was indeed a goal of mine. Well, did I pick it right or what?
Whew. Well, again, that's timing and luck, too.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because I walked into that audition, and being the professional organization that they are, they sent me all the materials. They sent me a script. They sent me the music, and they said these would be split auditions. You'll do the spoken word first, and then you'll come back and do the singing secondly. So now I went out to the studio, and I looked around the room at all of us ladies, and there were ladies I recognized from film. There were ladies I recognized from television. It was a highly sought after job.
Oh, I know. I've been listening to all the stories.
Yeah, and in New York they were doing the same thing. So I knew I was one of many. This was not, oh, we must get Pat.
Had you heard the fuss that was going on in trying to cast the role?
No, I did not.
So you didn't hear all the scuttlebutt about it. Okay, well, maybe that's better, actually. That you
oh, yes, because I don't read trade papers. I have very few friends in the business. If they are, they're in the theater, not in films or television.
Right.
So to me, it was another job I was going out for. And after I read the script, I thought, oh, this is going to be so wonderful. I heard the music. I thought, oh, my God, that's like a Broadway score.
Yeah.
So I went out, and the fellows were so wonderful in auditioning.
Tell me about that first audition. What do you recall about it?
Well, it was
spoken.
It was in as I remember, in a studio, and the gentlemen all. Number one, I remember they all stood up, and I know it was not just for me. I'm sure every lady who walked through the door, they stood up. I knew they were my kind of folk.
Right.
And I thanked them. I said, "Please sit down, gentlemen, but thank you. I don't see that too often these days." And
it
I mean
your
that.
respect as a woman.
Yeah, it's. I'm sorry, I'm very old-fashioned, but I do the same thing when an older person, man or woman, walks into the room. I don't have to get up too much these days.
Yeah,
but I
was
still
taught that too.
Do it because I was trained to do that as a child, and I still do it.
Me
you
too.
Respect your elders.
You respect anybody.
Yeah.
I respect
please.
people, whether they're older or younger.
Yeah, just please, everybody, all of us bow to each other because that's the humanity in each of us. Well, anyway, I did my words. They gave me some direction, which I appreciated, and I adjusted, and I did what I had to do. And when we came to the end, they said, "Thank you so much for coming out." I said, "Thank you so much for hearing me." And I left, and the agent called and said they liked you very much. I said, "Oh, that's pleasant." He said, "Can you go next week for the singing audition?" I said, "Of course." So I went back with music in hand, and we were in a theater for the singing audition. There was piano there. And
a friend of mine played piano for you.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, Stephen Orich. He's an arranger and a composer.
Oh, my God. And I think
Howard Ashman?
Howard was there?
He was there, for sure. I'm sure that John Musker and Ron Clements were there, too.
I'm sure they were.
Yeah, you probably
so
had a
Howard was there, and I began singing, and with your dear friend, Stephen, he asked me, where is your top? And I said, a B flat. It may be a little lower as I've gotten older, but the last I remember it was a B flat. So we tried the song in that key, and of course I was reading the music. And then one of the gentlemen said, "Can you sing that any lower?" I said, "Well, sure, Stephen, take it down some if you want."
Yeah.
So I sung as low as I could comfortably get notes out of, and we all laughed about it and were giddy. And again, thank you. And I said, "Thank you. It was great fun. I really enjoyed it. It was not a difficult audition because they made it fun."
Pat, let me ask you a question. Were you standing in a recording booth being recorded?
No. Well, I was standing in the bottom of a small theater.
Ah, okay.
You know, in front of a stage, as I remember, and a piano was there and some recording equipment.
I gotcha.
So we were doing it right in the body of the house, as it remembers me. And so I said goodbye, thank you, and it was a year later.
One whole year?
One whole year. I picked up the phone one morning. The agent said, "Congratulations." I said, "About what?" He said, "You got the Disney film." I said, "What Disney film?" "Oh, Allan, come on. It was a year later. I saw a lot of things in the meantime."
Oh, my God.
Can you believe that? No. I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about. What Disney film?
Wasn't there ever a point during that year when you wondered what had happened?
No. You finish your audition, you go away. I was doing other stuff and traveling on shows. And
sure.
No, you do auditions. It's like fishing. You bait the pole, you stake it in, you never know if you get a strike.
That's the only way you can look at that.
Oh, absolutely. Any other way, you'd end up in a crazy house.
Right.
Oh, why didn't I get that? Oh, they didn't like me. Why didn't they like me? Was my hair wrong? Did I not wear it?
You can't do
that.
Oh,
come on, please. You've just got to go and be yourself. Sell the wares that you have in your little actor's bag, and that's all you can do.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
So I had literally forgotten I had done that audition a year before.
Did you ask them why it took them so long to get back?
I didn't care.
Okay.
I didn't care. I was dazed and shocked to begin with. Then the next step was we were all gathered together at one of the recording studios in which I'd done many commercials and a lot of that. The entire cast, some of whom had been flown in from New York.
Right.
We were surrounded by photographers because it was the first time in the history of the Disney studios that they had ever had a read-through with the entire cast.
I was going to say, I'd never heard of that before.
It was
Not on an
done,
animated.
but there is no record of it because by the time we read the script, it was, and I know that Howard and
Alan Menken?
Alan Menken
Yeah.
were the ones who were responsible for that. They were theater men.
Yes, they were.
And they wanted that sound to come out of the words and going into songs.
So you did a table read?
We did a table read with all the songs.
Wow.
My dear, it was so exciting. It was so wonderful. I looked around at this group of people and I was gaga. We had photographers take it because this was a first for the Disney. At the end of the session,
Wow.
there had been a problem with the machines. It had never been taped.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
Yep. And a lot of the people had to leave right away to go back to New York, so they could not possibly redo that.
There must be still photos of the.
I'm sure there must be, Alan, because I was there that day, and I know it happened.
Of course, you know it happened.
You know, so and I was so disappointed because I thought maybe they'll give us copies of this. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have this as a historic first in the history of the Disney studios? But you know, doggone well, it was because Howard and.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm interviewing Alan Menken in about a week. And
well, would you send him my love?
Of course I will.
He is the gentlest of men.
I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'd be happy to. And I interviewed the late Howard Ashman's partner a few days ago, a man named Bill Lauk, who lived with Howard all through everything, right to the bitter end.
Bless him.
Yeah, right to the bitter end. And my God, the stories.
Well, I'll tell you something I wrote Alan after
Please.
Howard passed away, and I said, you know, songwriting teams are like good marriages, and you can understand why some of them break up. And I said, I'm so sorry you've lost your partner in music.
Yeah.
And it's the truth.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those partnerships are made in heaven.
Yep.
And when they work gorgeously.
Oh, boy, did that one work.
Oh, and Richard Rodgers was so fortunate after he lost Lorenz Hart to spring into the next band who actually gave him the bulk of his life in the theater.
Who could have predicted that?
Yeah, nobody knew who, you know, what gypsy fortune teller.
No.
But I'll tell you, that collaboration is probably one of the most difficult and one of the most visceral in the theatrical profession. And those two gentlemen are so deserving of all the kudos they've received, both in the theater and certainly from the films.
Oh, no, absolutely. So
please give Alan
Of course I will.
from me.
No, of course I will. I'm sure he'll be tickled to hear from you. So after you folks did the table read, what did you call happened next?
Then we began getting a schedule of recording sessions.
Okay.
Now, for me, I don't know how it was for anybody else. I was put on tape for the music, for the number that I did first.
First, okay.
And the first day it started with just Howard at a piano. I mean, with just Allan at the piano.
Yeah.
And just accompanying me on piano. The next session I went back, there was rhythm.
Right.
The next session I went back, there was another section, maybe horns or maybe strings or whatever. So that by the time, and I think we did over a dozen.
Right.
I'm not sure of the count, but it seemed to me like a dozen. And those men were absolutely military in their adherence to what they wanted.
Really?
And I'll tell you who did the number better than I do. It was Howard.
I was going to ask you all about that.
Was, and didn't it? I got from Howard. I said,
know.
Howard, may I use that? He said, of course, I wished you would.
Well, you know, he was known to be quite the Svengali. I mean, he knew, as you are well aware, exactly how he wanted every phrase to sound. Did he push you? Did he give you line readings? Did he?
No, but he gave me attitudinal things. I said, you know, before you do this, Howard, because I know you can do it, would you do the number the way you see it and you do it?
Yeah.
He did it, and I stole two things from him.
It exists
I said, I got you, Howard. I know exactly what you want, and I did it.
So it helped you.
Oh, help me. He gave me that performance. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm honest enough to say that. And I got the whole attitude from him, and his shoulders would twitch a certain way, and his eyes would go a certain way. I got more from Howard singing that song about that character than anything else.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you, when you first read the script, did you have definite ideas in your mind of what you felt this character would be like?
I knew what I wanted her to be like. I wanted her to be an ex-Shakespearean actress who now sold cars.
How do you mean that?
It's the attitude. The voice was very Shakespearean. Hello, my dear. Oh, no, darling. Very Shakespearean, very theatrical.
Yes.
But the pitch was a used car salesman. Very, very patently obvious.
Yeah.
No subtlety there.
She was trying to sell a young girl on something.
Absolutely. So she was being unctuous and oily and ever so wily, but you saw right through her. I'm surprised the kid didn't.
She couldn't.
I hear you.
It would have been a different film.
Absolutely.
So, for the most part, it was Howard Ashman directing you, or Clements and Musker vocal too?
They were, after we finished the music, John and the
co-directors.
The two Johns were in the booth,
Okay.
of course. But I dealt mostly with Howard and Allan during the musical segment because they knew what they wanted. Now, Allan moved away from the piano and went in the booth.
Right.
After all the tracks were being laid in, and they could really be in the booth working with the tracks, working with my balance.
Sure.
They built the number from the booth.
Yes.
All I could do, and the last thing, the yelling over it, was also directed from the booth because that had to be very big, under the big music or over the big music.
That's right.
And they didn't have that music at that time, so they just had to tell me what it was like, and I think I gave it to them.
You were able to squint your brain, obviously, and see all that.
And many times I'd go home with my vocal cords blown because you do it over and over and over, and I would have to say occasionally, gentlemen, may I take a 5-minute break to breathe and get some water and just rest? And, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they were relentless in their pursuit of excellence, and I adore working with people like
You
that.
like perfectionists?
Oh, God. I'm not one myself, but I recognize it in others, and I'll work myself to death for them.
So you respected their...
Oh, totally, absolutely, Allan. And these young men would immediately take upstairs to, who is now gone with Spielberg?
Katzenberg.
Yeah, to Jeffrey.
Sure.
Jeffrey heard every session.
Sure.
He saw every bit of animation. He was so on top of this, and then it would go even upstairs higher.
Oh, yeah.
To the big Magoo.
So Eisner.
What's his name?
Michael Eisner.
Yeah, up to Eisner. So these two men had their fingers with every frame, every note of music. Those men were on it. That's what quality control is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That is what quality control is.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you that both Jeffrey and Michael Eisner were so extraordinarily kind to me when I was touring, promoting the picture.
Really?
Which I did for about 2 weeks. I got a call from Michael Eisner's secretary, who's very English. She said, Pat, are you going to be in for a bit? And I said, well, yes, I am. She said, well, Michael will be calling you from the car. And I said, which one? Well, there was a beat of 3, and then she got it and laughed. So then called me. Now, I'm in the presidential suite at one of the finest hotels in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And Eisner calls me and says, Pat, are they treating you well? I said, Michael, is this the way they treat Queen Elizabeth? Of course they're treating me well. I said the respect on the road because of the name Disney is unbloody believable. Mm-hmm. But I gave him a story. I said I was sitting on an airplane going into Detroit, and one of the stews recognized me and said, what are you doing going into Detroit? And I told her about the Little Mermaid, and I was pounding the drum. And the gentleman sitting next to me after the young lady left said, how do you do? My name is so-and-so. I said, how do you do? My name is Pat Carroll. He said, I heard you say Disney. Are you with the studio? I said, no, I'm an actress, and I've just completed one of their animated films, and I'm going from city to city promoting it. And he said, I have to tell you something. As an engineer, I go around the world to different meetings, and the Disney company is always held up as one of the best run companies, bar none, in the world. Mm-hmm. And I said, Michael, is that true? He said, we try to make it true.
Yeah.
Michael first wrote me when he was on a plane coming back from Tokyo saying he'd just gotten the first reviews in and that I was being lauded from here to Siam, and he was so pleased about the quality of the film. I still have that letter.
They kept you in the loop. They completely kept you in the loop.
These men made you feel like you were so important to the progress of this film.
But you were.
Well, I don't know about that, my darling, but
trust me, you were.
They treated you so beautifully on the road, and see, I happen to love promoting films. I happen, if I like them.
You're a people
couldn't pay
person.
me $1 million if I don't like something I've done. No way. Bury it. Forget about it.
Okay.
But if I have regard and respect for a piece of work that I've done, I will sell it till the end of my days.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's how strongly I feel about quality. And I knew we had quality, but I had not seen the film put together until 2 days, maybe 5 days before it was to be premiered down at Orlando.
Right.
And there was one, like a nanosecond, that they had changed dialogue on Ursula's turning around, and I had to lip sync to a change of dialogue they had. I worked in a looping room for like 3 or 4 hours to get that nanosecond correct.
Do you remember what scene that was?
No, I'm sorry,
You
Allan.
blocked it out of your mind?
I blocked it out of my mind because I've never been very good at looping. My timing is always, I should play saxophone, you know. But I remember that was the finiteness of that was draining. I had a humongous headache after that session.
Really?
It is so perfect. The way the demands of looping are so mathematical.
Of course they are.
Because it had to be exactly with the figure turn and the lip move.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to get it, but we finally got it. Thank God. Then I was flown to Orlando. My entire family was flown to Orlando.
Okay.
We were treated like visiting royalty, and I have never seen a promotional junket like that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many journalists were there from every newspaper, magazine, not only here but in Europe. And the day after the premiere, they had a huge meeting room with round tables set up. There were 10 or 12. I've never seen this kind of thing before. I understand it's de rigueur. And 10 or 12 journalists would be there with tape recorders and pencils and whatever, or video cameras or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they would shift us like the backfield in a football team from table to table.
That's right.
I've never seen that, Allan. It is brilliant.
Yeah, that's very common now, but...
Everybody is served.
Yeah.
And you only had so many minutes at each table. You fielded and you found yourself repeating the same thing over and over. But that's all you can do.
That's true.
You can't make up new stories. These people are asking approximately the same questions.
Sure.
So all you can do is answer with courtesy and cheer and joy and go on to the next table.
Yep.
And I've met journalists that were at that session. And it's the first time I've ever been at a premiere with only people from journalism that they applauded at the end of the film.
Wow.
And without exception, each one of those journalists the next day, you know, when we were being interviewed, all of them said, "Do you know what a wonderful film you're in?" I said, "After yesterday, I do." Because I'd only seen that one little segment of it in the looping session.
Yeah, I mean, we're jumping ahead slightly here, but tell me, what was your reaction the very first time you saw this movie?
I saw it in New York.
Yeah.
In a screening room.
You had not seen your own character before.
No, sir. So I lied to you. I did see it in New York before I did this junket because I said to them, "Look, I can't sell something I don't know, and I have not seen it." They said, "You haven't seen the film?" I said, "No." They sent me to a screening room in Manhattan because I was doing some promotion there. I sat there all by myself, and when that thing first started with the gulls, over the screen, I thought, "Oh my God, they forgot to put the credits in yet. Oh well, it's okay." And then it started, and by the time Ursula came on, I was sliding down on my chair. She scared hell out of me. I really was scared of her, Allan.
Okay.
I thought, "Oh my God, who is that? It's huge and it's wonderful and it's marvelous. And oh my God, it's scary." And then afterwards I thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to scare the hell out of kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the next Margaret Hamilton." And you know, she was a kindergarten teacher. And she adored children.
Yes.
My own daughter was petrified of her in The Wizard of Oz.
Well, she was terrifying.
She was so scary. And Margaret hated it till the day she died because she adored kids and they all were scared to death of her.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that story too.
Isn't that something, Al? But it really scared me the first time. But I knew that it was going to be successful.
You must have been very proud.
So right. Everything was so right. The music was so wonderful.
Yeah.
And Kiss the Girl is still my favorite song. I love that song.
I love the song too.
And the little froggies coming up on the oars. And
that made me laugh hysterically.
Oh, yes. And is Sam wonderful as Sebastian?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We can go on and on about this. I mean, honestly, the movie, I think it's one of the greatest ever made.
The one thing in my life that I'm probably, from having fallen into it, that I'm the most proud of is being associated with that film.
Really?
And I don't care if after I'm gone, the only thing I'm associated with is Ursula. That's okay by me because that's a pretty wonderful character and a pretty marvelous film to be remembered for. And I bless it.
Of course. Wow. So let's back up again. Let's back up just a little bit. In the dialogue recording, was there any improving going on? Were you encouraged to improv?
No, John and Ron pretty well. And there were rewrites as we went along, and sometimes if something didn't seem to work well through my mouth, they would have it rewritten on the spot. But they were very, very precise about what they wanted and the levels vocally and what was being achieved in the scene and what was going on visually.
Were they showing you storyboards?
I had seen storyboards. I'm not very good with storyboards. Even in the world of cartoons, storyboards I know from Pow and Wham and,
Yes.
But I'm not frightfully good with gaining the character. However, I did see the progression storyboards on Ursula with great interest from her having been conceived as an eel.
Yes.
And that residual being the two eels that are her, henchmen.
Uh-huh.
And then getting to an octopus and then a squid because there were fewer tentacles.
Yep.
I think that is so brilliant business that you'll have two less tentacles to animate.
Yes.
So even the trickle down of monetary concern goes right down to the creativity, and I think it's divine.
That's why Mickey Mouse had 4 fingers on each hand.
That's right. They had to save that one finger.
Yeah.
Cost too much, folks, on the board.
Costs, even back then.
But I learned so much doing this film in that way, and hearing the stories of their having the little girl swim in the tank to get that flow of hair for Ariel in the water. The meticulousness of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I just admire it beyond measure.
That's pretty clear, and you're part of it too. Were there many recording sessions for the dialogue?
As I remember, they went on endlessly.
Really?
Because there were a few changes. So, and this would only be every month or two.
Okay. Over how long a period of time do you think?
2 years altogether for me.
No kidding.
Yeah. And before that, they'd had, 2 or 3 years in the preparation of it. But I was on it for 2 years.
So you
right up to that last session before the premiere in Florida.
You must have done what, to 12, between 12 and 20 record sessions or something?
Oh, I think so.
At least.
I think easily. I don't have an exact count, Alan, but I would say a minimum of 12 and undoubtedly a possibility of 20.
How did you manage to juggle that? I'm sure you had many other things going on.
Listen, Disney took precedence at that time. As I told you, this was a lifelong ambition of mine to do a Disney film.
Mm-hmm.
I was there as hook, line, and sinker. If I had a commitment that ran into a session that they wanted, I would always call and say, would it be possible, because I have a such and such then, would it be possible either the day before or the day after? They always were kind about making small problems. If they couldn't do it, they were also honest about that.
Right.
And I would make the adjustment. That's how important I felt they were in my life at that time. And I think you must give that deference in your professional life. When you know that something is far more important than the other things you're doing, you've got to put your allegiance where it belongs.
That's a very subjective thing. Is what is important to you?
You're exactly right.
Obviously, this was important to you.
Very important to me.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you one thing. I came home one night, very tired from one of these sessions, and I think it was probably a spoken session. And my youngest daughter, Tara, who is now an actress and director.
Speed. I apologize for the
please,
interruption.
come on.
And now, please pick up right where you left off.
Well, I came in tired, pooped, exhausted, and I was griping as actors are wont to do instead of being grateful they're working. And Tara said, Mom, may I remind you of something? You came along as a kid and were in the Mickey Mouse Club, and when we came along, you took us to every product that the Disney people put out. And it seems to me now that you are in something that 50 years from now may be shown, and all the work you've done in the theater will have gone by the boards and disappeared, but what you're working on now will be seen by our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And I looked at her and I thought, the kid is right, and I said, you're absolutely right, Tara, but are you telling me that my grandchildren will only know me as a squid? And we both began screaming with laughter because she knew what I was saying is right. Because, with the youngsters, you cannot separate my being a voice artist and doing that from Ursula. Ursula is Ursula.
I know.
It has nothing to do with me.
I know.
So I always sign pictures, and I'm still getting requests from the little people.
Yes.
I sign pictures, Ursula, and I always say, dear sweet lips, I hug you with my tentacles. Oceans of love, Ursula. And then underneath, in parentheses, I put Pat Carroll, very small.
You do?
Yeah, very small.
Because you know who the kids are.
They don't know who this Pat Carroll is, but they do know who Ursula is.
One day they will when they have this photo with.
Well, they have to ask their parents first.
Yeah. Well, and thankfully, Pat, you are doing other projects.
I have to keep myself alive.
There will be many records of your having been on this earth. In fact, you did something with a friend of mine recently, the movie Songcatcher. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Who is
your friend?
Well, the young girl, Emmy Rossum.
Oh my God! Is Emmy wonderful in that
She's
film?
my neighbor. I've watched her grow up from infancy, basically.
Well, my dear, you have a good neighbor.
Oh, she's very talented.
I tell you, she came out of that film like a rose new blown.
Yep.
And I think she has a great career ahead of her.
Oh, she's already in the midst of it. Yeah, she played young Audrey Hepburn on a television miniseries about Audrey Hepburn's life. She was wonderful.
Isn't that great? Well, if you run into her at the elevator, give her a hug from me.
I absolutely will. Did the irony ever strike you? You know, this is funny. I rewatched Little Mermaid. I've seen it many, many times, but I watched it again because I knew I was going to be speaking with you. Did the irony ever strike you that your voice was coming out of someone else's mouth, and that character was someone who craved someone else's voice?
That never struck
part
me.
of her plant. It was kind of weird to me.
That is ironic. The thought never occurred to me. I just thought, well, this evil witch just wants to beguile the prince.
Oh, and she
wants
does.
to become a prince. I never thought of that. What
her
a
method
good
was
point,
to steal
Allan.
the voice.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I know.
But boy, did you like Songcatcher?
You know something? I hate to say it. I still haven't seen it.
Oh, my God. Go to your video store and see it.
I'm going to.
Oh, please do. I think you will love it. And the mountain music in it. I'm even on a CD with Miss Emmylou Harris and Miss Dolly Parton.
Are you?
I'm thinking of getting me a bus and going down there and doing me one night stand. I'm telling you, if you don't like this film, I'll eat my boat.
Oh, I'm wanting to see it.
And I want you to call me after you've seen it.
Okay.
All right?
Absolutely will.
That's a promise.
I promise you I will.
All right.
I have to because of Emmy. As soon as it came out, I got very busy and I ended up going away. And anyway, I'm back now. And
there's no excuse now because of videos.
You're right. As far as Mermaid, though, I just need a few more minutes with you.
Sure.
Did the company send you all the tchotchkes? Did you buy all the toys and the books and the...
Oh, no. They are so good about sending you all of that stuff. A lot of it I shared with... I don't have nephews and nieces because I'm an only.
Oh.
But I did share with other grandkids in my family and young friends because if I kept all of that around, I would have looked like I'd opened a Disney store here. But they're very generous about it. But I'll tell you right now, I have a huge 5-foot chicken, a wooden sculpture from Mexico.
Yes.
And sitting on top of the chicken on a saddle is a big stuffed toy Sebastian. Riding a chicken. And I feel that's the proper place for Sebastian to be. I love it. I walk in my office every day, and there's Sebastian on top of this huge chicken. And that was one of the gifts from Disney.
Great. No, he's a great character.
And I've gone on the Villains Week in Orlando.
I was just going to ask you, what have you done subsequent in terms of cartoon stuff? And
I haven't done any more of that.
Okay.
I continue to do things for Disney with the Ursula character, however, because they have interactive videos.
So you have played Ursula again, okay.
Yes, and then on the cartoon show, they had because Michael Eisner felt that Ursula was too scary for the Saturday morning group, and I think he was right. Yeah, I think he was absolutely right. But they have prequels.
Yeah.
So I've done 5 or 6 of those.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and I've done light shows in Tokyo as Ursula. I've done Ursula's voice for the ice show. There have been many ancillary lovely things come out of doing the film. And certainly the first 5 years I was very, very busy. And then whenever they bring it out of the vault every 7 years, I show up for whatever event it is.
Absolutely.
And get a new banner or something. The best time I had was the Villains Week because I got to
what was that?
It was down in Orlando. You know, every year they have a convention of people around the world who collect memorabilia.
Oh, no, I didn't know
Disney
that.
memorabilia. They say they buy more in Disney World than conventions of twice that size.
Really?
Yeah. These, and many of them are families. You know, whole families will come together because they're collectors. And they hired a bunch of us. The fellow who did Prince Jafar, and the little lady who was one of the strange little naughties in one of the earlier films.
Okay.
I can't remember her name.
How long ago was this?
It had to be 5-6 years ago.
Was Betty Lou Gerson still alive?
I don't
Who
think
did?
so.
She was Cruella in...
I know, but I don't think Betty Lou was there. I knew her from radio.
You knew her, okay.
CBS.
Yeah. Because frankly...
But it was a wonderful week, Allan. They had us doing lectures for the people. They had the animators.
Yeah.
They're doing seminars with the people. Do you know how wonderful that was for these people to hear these and then they would sign cells that anybody brought to them. You know,
sure.
They would sign them. And one man came to me with a prototype of a new Ursula doll that he had bought for $5,000. Give me a break.
Oh my God.
And I said, sir, you don't want me to sign this. I'll ruin it. He said, oh no, it'll increase in price if you sign it. I said, then you've got the signature, and I signed it.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
$5,000.
And they would have signing sessions in the afternoon after they took us to lunch. We would go back to a marvelous pavilion with tables set up for all of us, and there would be lines out the door with people with things that they'd purchased that we would sign.
Hello?
Oh, I tell you, it was 4 or 5 days. I was so tired, I had to come back to the Cape and go on a vacation.
I was going to ask, wasn't your hand falling off after?
Oh, yeah, and we signed posters, and we signed and signed and signed, but they treat you like royalty.
Wow.
But you work for it, you know, and I respect that. They're not giving you this good time for nothing.
No, absolutely.
Now you work, and that's good. That's an equal exchange. I don't feel beholden. I work for my bread.
Right.
You know, but a wonderful adventure for the folks who come from all over the world for one of these convention things they have for collectors.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a hoot, actually.
Oh, it was wonderful. And they had a big ball at the end of the 5 days, and people made their own costumes. There were 12 Ursulas, and 2 of them were men. Is that wonderful?
That's hysterical.
But you know who I voted for?
Whom?
A father and his little 5-year-old girl who came as Prince Charming and Cinderella. They were the cutest damn things you've ever seen in your life. Absolutely adorable. There were a lot. One group came as Cruella and 25 Dalmatians. It was a marvelous evening, and the creativity and the fun and the camaraderie.
It does sound like a lot of fun.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Disney knows how to throw a party.
Oh, yes, they always have.
Yeah.
So I guess that about wraps it up.
Good, Allan. I hope you've gotten something.
I got a lot of stuff.
Running off at the mouth.
No, please. Are you kidding? I so appreciate you giving me
My pleasure, because I so appreciate that you're doing a book that encompasses some of these magnificent things that have happened in the world of animation. Because it's a whole other world that seems to be becoming more important as our world seems to get more intensely non-attractive.
Yes.
It's all taken up with animation now.
I know.
To escape into that other world. I wish it were animated more beautifully these days.
Yeah,
it's the ugliness.
I wish it were too. I know.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why we need these projects, these films and TV shows. You know, it helps brighten things a little bit.
Yes, it does. And I'm afraid we live in parlous times, and people's hearts and souls should only be lifted a bit. All right, Allan. It's been a joy talking with you.
Likewise.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.